Man, it's been a crazy day. Thought I said one time. Apparently I said another time. My wife flat tire on the way home. I'm gonna have to eat in the first part of the show, so y'all bear with me. I'll be right back. Hold on. Life is just unpredictable sometimes. You have things planned out, and other things decide that they want to happen, and there's nothing you can do about it. So, it's just been one of those days. Well, we got some special guests coming on later on in the show. We have Coos from Coos' Corner. He's going to call in at 8 o'clock. Big time West Virginia fan, just like myself. So we'll talk a little bit about West Virginia football. And then at 9 p.m., David Smoak. This guy is... This was a big land for Golden Blue Dude. And now I'm drilling. Big get for Golden Blue Dude. Over 3 decades of covering sports. He's been with ESPN Central out of Central Texas. KTBB Radio, Sikkim Sports. He covers the Dallas Cowboys. He's been on KLTV, KETK, NBC 56. Lead sports anchor for them. He was on KFXK Fox, CBS 19. He's covered Cowboys training camp, Rangers training camp, the Masters, the NCAA Final Four, the NBA Finals, the NFL Draft, the Big 12 Tournament, and almost every Super Bowl that you can think of. So, yeah, that was a big time get for Golden Blue Dude. And I appreciate everybody that comes on the show. And I appreciate y'all for watching, coming along with me. Sea Dog's in the house. Oh, I had fun with Sea Dog last night. That was a great show. The ACC show. Let's see. Poodook. Yes, I'm doing good. It's hectic, but I'm still doing all right. We made it. My prep time for the live show was shortened just a bit because on the way home, something flew off the back of a truck or something and hit my wife's tire. And about the closest you can get to blowing a tire without blowing it. I went and picked her up. And there was a huge gash in the tire. And if y'all remember, I did a video not too long ago where I had 2 flat tires in one day. Well, we had a 3rd flat tire today. So we've had a flat tire epidemic for whatever reason. So it's been crazy like that. How's y'all's day going? Mine's hectic, but I'm okay. We'll be all right. I got out my video for the Ed Orgeron situation at LSU. I think if they don't go 9-3, that dude could be on his way out. But I'm also working on a second video. If I can't get it out today, I'll get it out tomorrow. We're going down the rabbit hole of who still has a chance at getting to the playoffs. And... well, once you watch the video, you'll see why I call it a rabbit hole. More teams are still in it than you realize. I know we all pretty much know that it's Georgia and Alabama. Then, there's a gap, and then everybody else. So, Georgia, Alabama going to the playoffs. But there are 2 other spots to fill. And there's a lot in line, and more teams are still in it than you realize. And right when I go live, my cats decide they want to fight. They do crap like this every freaking time. Every freaking time. Coastal, BYU, and Cincy. More teams than that, man. Like, way more teams. It's surprising. And I didn't even realize it till I started doing my research, tiebreakers, what they would look like at the end of the season if, they finish the season undefeated as far as from now to the end. So even several one-loss teams are still in the playoff hunt right now. Yep, that would be my cats right there, deciding to fight right when I do a live show. It's always something. They're either eating loud, fighting, scratching on the litter box. It's always something. Hey, what's up, two old people on a couch? I like that name, by the way. That's an interesting name. I'll have to ask you how you came up with that. I was listing G5 independent candidates. There's more than that, actually. You'll see. There's probably a good 5 candidates that I put in there. I mean, not likely, not realistically, really, but mathematically, there's several more in there. Oh, yeah, any questions you have for David Smoak later on in the show, hit me up in the super chat, and I'll make sure to write them down and ask. Yeah, I don't know why my cats do that. Animals, they have jealousy just like everybody else, and apparently my cats are jealous of my live show, so that's the only thing that I can make of that. I don't know, but we have some big games coming on this weekend as well. You already know for my score prediction game for the week, I have the Penn State at Iowa, number 4 versus number 3, and as chaotic as this year has been, I've been thinking, in 2007, because that's the year that we always like to compare. 2007, it was crazy, the curse of the number 2. This year, it looks like it could be the curse of the number 3. And if Penn State goes on the road and beats Iowa, that would be another number 3 going down. And then the following week, that would probably put Penn State at number 3. I don't know if they play Ohio State the following week, but real soon Penn State would have to go on the road and play Ohio State, and then that could be another number 3 that goes down. So instead of the curse of the number 2, this year we could be looking at the curse of the number 3, because, Alabama and Georgia are they're pretty much locked at that 1 and 2 position. I don't see them losing. Georgia's best chance of losing now is probably this next game at number 18 Auburn. So, yeah, we'll see about that. I am going to do a video on number 3's losing, but I want to wait kind of later on in the season and see if more and more lose. Then we can officially call it a curse. We're still early in the season. Several have gone down, alarmingly, but it's still, we're not even halfway through the season yet. We're almost halfway through, but not quite. So need to wait a little bit longer before we actually call it a curse. While you're here, don't forget to hit the like button. Not to, pat me on the shoulder or anything like that. It just hits the YouTube algorithm, gets this thing shared more, gets more people in, more trash talk, more conversation, all that stuff, and it's free. It doesn't cost you anything. All you do is go over there, hit the like button, and you're supporting the show. It helps with the show. I've been pretty good with my predictions this year, except for last week. That was epically bad. Really, really bad. I think I went 7-11, 7 wins and 11 losses. I've never had a losing week since I've started my predictions. That was the first. It was a bad one. And it was because I went on a limb too much. I picked way too many upsets, and it bit me in the rear end. So we'll try to do much better. Hey, y'all hold on one second here. Why is everybody deciding to be loud? Sorry. Now, my kids decided they wanted to be loud. Yeah, I, like an idiot, I picked Maryland and I picked Rutgers. Other stupid picks. I picked Utah State to beat BYU. I'm sure there was more than that. I had an off week. It was dumb. I went back and looked at my prediction. I was like, I mean, I guess I tried to rationalize it whenever I did it because some of those teams were hot and it's been a crazy year. But then I look back and I was like, yeah, that was pretty dumb. I shouldn't have picked that, but it is what it is, and still got to count it towards my record. And my percentage, this is how bad it hurt me. My percentage went from 66% to 53%. So I'm still above 500, but daggum, not by much. I like being close to 70%, not, 50%. So we're going to have to do much better this week. Much, much better. Call-in show, I'm not sure about that, Nate. I have Coos Walker. He's going to call in at 8, and then I have David Smoak coming in at 9. I might try to squeeze a few in here before Coos comes on. The problem is, right now I'm waiting on my call-in phone to charge, and it's still got... Hold on. Yeah, it's still got a little ways to go, so if it's charged before Coos calls in, then we will open up the phone lines. The best way to grow your channel, promote, man. You could have the best content in the world, but if nobody knows about you, then, it's not going to grow. So the best way to grow your channel is be consistent and just tell, hey, go check out my YouTube channel. I still have a part-time job, and every stinking time that I go to work, I talk to at least 5 people. Like, that's my goal. 5 people. I talk to 5 people every day and mention my YouTube channel. I was like, hey, if you like college football, and I pull it up and everything show up. And 9 times out of 10, they actually check it out and subscribe. So word of mouth, always. And then, of course, on social media, I use Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff. Be consistent and promote. That's the best way to grow your channel. Trying to think of anything else. Because people gave me advice, so I try to help people who are just starting out. And if you're wanting, here's the big thing. Here's the big thing. If you don't have a YouTube channel and you're wanting to start a YouTube channel and you're like, when's the best time to start one? Now. You don't have the best, you don't have to have the best camera. You don't have to have the best lighting, all that sound, mics, whatever. You're going to have bad videos too. You might as well just start knowing that you're going to make bad videos, learn from your mistakes, and get better. If you go back and watch my first videos and just watch throughout, you'll see how completely different the channel looks now. And I bet you, 2 years from here, I'll look back and be like, man, that was stupid, because you learn things and you get better. But I am really excited about real freaking internet coming soon, hopefully within the next 2 weeks. I had to switch my phone plan over to unlimited because my Wi-Fi here was satellite and it was bad. You can ask people that's been here a while. Whenever I used Wi-Fi, I even used my hotspot on my phone, trying to use my laptop, buffering. It was horrible. So thank goodness real internet is coming, and it's really exciting because I'll be able to use my laptop, graphics. I'm going to get a soundboard, so we'll have multiple phone lines instead of the old phone to mic thing. I mean, it works for now, and it's okay, but, it's going to make a lot of things more interesting. So, yeah, I'm pretty happy about that. And I was hoping to get John Kurtz on here, and if not this show, maybe next Wednesdays. That dude is a very busy guy. He's very busy, so it's kind of tough to get him on sometimes. But I have Coos Walker out of Coos' Corner. That's a YouTube channel. Whenever y'all get the chance, go check that one out. And then David Smoak at 9 o'clock. Big name, probably the biggest name that I've had on this channel. This guy has over 30 years, 3 decades, 30 years of covering sports. That's a lot of years. So I can't wait to learn from him. I mentioned earlier all of his credentials, but not many people were in here, so here we go, real quick. Of course, Smoky.com, that's been around for about 20 years now, maybe over 20 years. ESPN out of Central Texas, he's affiliated with them. Sikkim Sports, that's a great show. 365 Sports. He was on KTBB Radio. He was on KLTV. He was on KETK NBC 56. He was their lead sports anchor. He was on KFXK Fox, CBS 19. He's covered things like the Dallas Cowboys, the Texas Rangers training camp, the Masters, the NCAA Final Four, the NBA Finals, the NFL Draft, the Big 12 Tournament, and pretty much any Super Bowl you can think of. The dude knows his stuff, and he's been everywhere. So, it's awesome. I don't love Texas. And no, I will never do hook'ems for you. There's no bet that I'm taking on that. But I was able to, in 2019, whenever I first started my channel, I was able to pay a Texas fan $10 for the price of $10. Think about this, Texas fans. For the price of $10, I got a Texas fan to do a horns down. And I have a picture of that. I've shared it on my videos before, and I'll probably share it again whenever we play Texas again. For 10 measly dollars, I got a Texas fan to disrespect his own team. That's shameful. That's shameful. Very, very shameful. But we got it. He bought him some beer, so beer was on Golden Blue Dude that day, and all for the price of a horns down. There you go. Got it done. Let me check my phone again. The good news is it's charging fast, but the bad news is it's still not there. Horns down is meaningless to us Texas fans. We don't care. I needed that joke. That's a good one. I'll have to remember that. Horns downs is meaningless to us Texas fans. We don't care. Yeah, that's a good one, man. I like that. Nice. Nice one right there. Yeah, that's why y'all got the Big 12 to institute penalties on specifically horns down. And why West Virginia got flagged for horns down when Will Greer did his thing. But to be honest with you, whenever that whole thing came out, it was, and Texas fans said this. They said, when Texas A&M or Oklahoma does it, or Texas Tech, it doesn't bother us as much. But when West Virginia did it, it did, because we're still considered outsiders in the Big 12. I think that's the thing. That's when the friction between Texas fans and West Virginia fans, as far as rivalry and sports hate, not real life hate, but sports hate, started actually developing whenever we saw that. Oh, so we're still considered outsiders and we'll get flagged for it, but most of the other teams that Texas has been playing for, ever doesn't. So that's why that turned into a thing, and why West Virginia literally started selling merchandise with horns down and all that stuff, because Texas fans were like, they literally let us know that it bothered them, so we're like, oh, okay, we're going to make money off that. So yeah, that was I remember that too. That was crazy, cause even when I think about it, before the whole Will Greer thing, it really wasn't any type of big deal as far as Texas fans taking it as disrespect, any sort of animosity, anything like that. But whenever that game in Austin happened, in that 2-point conversion, and David Sills threw it down, and then Will Greer threw it down, that's when it really took the forefront as disrespect for whatever. Anyway, guys, I'm also hungry. I haven't gotten to eat dinner yet, so my wife fixed me a little bit of food, so I'm probably going to eat in the middle of sentences, so it is what it is. By the way, she makes the best deer meat burger. So, if you're curious, hold on. I'm gonna slide this back so y'all don't hear me like chewing all that much. That was a loud pop, probably. But if you're curious, that's what I'm gonna be eating: macaroni and cheese, mashed potatoes, and that is deer burger actually, and it's really really good. Look at that. That is some good food right there, guys. You talk about satisfying comfort food. That's it right there. You got your mac and cheese, shells and cheese. That's what I prefer. Mashed potatoes and deer burger. That's a good meal right there. So, y'all just gonna have to get over it for right now, because I'm starving, and it's been a long day, and I kind of had to squish this in here. So basically, I'm going to try to squeeze dinner in here before Coos comes on here, because I don't want to be, chewing and answering questions at the same time. Shoot me some questions on the comments. I'll try to answer. Already a score prediction. People are taking... Hold on. Yeah, people are taking Iowa by 2 possessions. Okay. I can't totally disagree. That's a... I'll show y'all again. So this is what I'm having for dinner. Mac and cheese, shells and cheese, the best macaroni and cheese, mashed potatoes, and that is deer burger, and it's really, really good. Especially the way my wife makes it. It's really good. It's got a little bit of spice to it, so it's not bland. Yeah, let's get some predictions in here. I'm liking this so far. So let's see. We have 2 for Iowa, 1 for Penn State, 3 for Iowa, 1 for Oklahoma, and 1 for Texas. So 3 Iowa. I might write this down actually. All right, let's see here. 4, 5, 6, 7 for Iowa. All right, 7, 1 for Penn State, 1 Texas, 1 OU. You can make Oklahoma predictions as well. So we have another Oklahoma. Another one for Oklahoma. 3 more for Iowa. I think Iowa has 10-1 now. Yeah, Iowa actually did do really good in the logo bracket. I think they made it to the Final Four, if I'm not mistaken. Another vote for Texas. Oklahoma leading in the Oklahoma-Texas game. Of course, BYU tube had to get in a Boise or a BYU prediction. I think everybody will take BYU in that one. Let's see. So right now, Oklahoma leads 4-2 in the predictions, and Iowa leads 10-1. Dang. Now it's 5-3 Oklahoma. Is anybody taking West Virginia over Baylor, just out of curiosity? I think Notre Dame can beat Virginia Tech in Blacksburg, but I don't think they're stomping them like that. Blacksburg is a very difficult place to win. So I would say Notre Dame by maybe 10, if that. No, if Baylor wins, they're not going to smoke West Virginia. That's a bit of an overreaction. That was a bad loss against Texas Tech. Not going to sugarcoat it. And we do have 3 losses, but we've only lost by a combined of 12 points. Combined. So if Baylor does beat West Virginia, it's not going to be a blowout. That's not going to happen. I'm fully confident in saying that. And I think West Virginia has a really good chance of winning, actually. The matchups are pretty favorable for West Virginia, and we'll have a lot of energy for this one. Last game, you got to remember, West Virginia came out flat against Texas Tech. I mean, we had just come off an emotional home win over Virginia Tech and a emotional road loss to Oklahoma. Had we come out with any energy in the first half, the game wouldn't have been close, but we scored 0 points. There was nothing. We had nothing. Even our defense came out flat. So it was just a terrible first half for West Virginia. I mean, we went into half down 17-0. That's crazy. So I don't expect that to continue. I do think Baylor... I'm not saying Baylor doesn't have a chance. Of course they have a chance, and they probably will win just because of how the year's going for West Virginia. But I just have this feeling that it's going to be a close game, and West Virginia will have at least a chance to win it at the end of the game. That's how I feel about it. If y'all weren't here earlier, the reason I'm eating is I didn't get to eat because my wife had a flat tire and I had to go get her, and I just ran out of time. But it is what it is. It's good food too. I'm not passing up good food. Golden Blue Dude is rooting for Texas to win on Saturday. No, but I'm not rooting for Oklahoma either. Like, I'm not pulling for Texas, but I might predict Texas to win. So if you're saying that, you might be right. Prediction video comes out tomorrow, so we'll see. We'll see. What excuses? What are you talking about? I was talking about facts, not excuses. It's a fact. 3 losses. It's a fact. Combined 12 points. It's a fact. We came out super flat against Texas Tech. No energy, no emotion, nothing. I mean, excuses for eating. I don't need an excuse for eating. I just eat. But I haven't eaten since lunch, so I'm pretty hungry. Good food, too. Man. No, I don't think Wake Forest wins the ACC. In fact, I think Syracuse beats them. I think Syracuse beats Wake Forest. For whatever reason, Syracuse. I mean, I'm not saying Syracuse is a good team. They're not, but for whatever reason, they're good at beating teams. Uh, in the dome, do an eating show. Also, I would, but whenever I watch those eating shows, I hate the sound of them chewing. I'm like, why do people like the sound of that? That's why I'm trying to chew away from the mic. So if y'all hear me chewing, I apologize. But to me, it's annoying. But I see how many subscribers they have. Like, dadgum, just for chewing in front of people, they have like 2 million subscribers. That's crazy. I've been hearing about how Gary Patterson was a crybaby, but I must have missed that. I haven't seen that. Unfortunately, I have to agree with Talkers Pitt. I think Pitt has the best chance to win the ACC. I really do. Joey's Super Cool Food Reviews. I like the name right off the bat. I'm actually writing down. I'm also Virginia Tech. Yeah, Virginia Tech has a chance. I agree with that. I'm also a big. You might laugh at this one. That's okay, but I've been a big wrestling fan since I was like 9. So I'm subscribed to probably 15 different wrestling. It doesn't have to be WWE either. There's also New Japan, AEW, Impact. A lot of great promotions out there. So if any of y'all know a good YouTube channel about wrestling, I'll check it out. I get suggestions on my phone a lot. I see channels that I've never seen and they have good content. I'm like, love it. Love it. What numbers? You said numbers don't lie. Kind of confused there. Scott, sorry. You said numbers don't lie, so, Oh, AEW is giving the WWE a big run for their money. If you watch here's the key, okay? I know people that watch wrestling get made fun of, and I get it. But here's the thing. If you watch it for what it is, it's just entertainment. Like, we all know that it's not like real wrestling. Like, they're not actually fighting each other for a winner. We know there's a script. We know there's a move set. We know there's call spots. All that stuff. We know that. So if you can go into it knowing that, then if you enjoy it, going in knowing that, then that's how you... And then if you don't watch it. But if you enjoy it, then you watch it. That's it. A male soap opera. Yeah, a male soap opera where they do, athletic moves, double flips, all those moves that they do. They are athletes. Even though they're not fighting for real, they are athletics. They are athletes, and they're doing athletic stuff in there. I mean, and the preparation that goes into that is incredible. The timing that they have to have. And you see it because when they mess up, the person that messes up, they mess up, and the other person that was about to do what they're do, they still do it. It's just the other person messed up. So you see the timing. So when you see a mess up, it's very, very clear because that's how timed it is. So you just gotta watch it for what it's worth. If you don't like it, you don't like it. But watching wrestling or sports entertainment, whatever you want to call it, doesn't mean that we think it's real and you know we're out of touch with reality because they're fooling us. No, no, we get it. We know it's fake. It's just like watching a comedy. Like, is that real life? Like, are we watching somebody's real life? No, you're not. You know it's fake. You know there's a script. You know they're acting. It's, do you like that particular show or not? Same thing with wrestling. That's it. Oh yeah, and CM Punk is back in wrestling now. He's with AEW. Man, whenever they announced his return, that was crazy. That was crazy. Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, if you have a question for one of our polls, send a super chat, and we'll actually make a poll for your particular question. So if you want to get the entire chat's opinion about something, and you want to create a poll about it, super chat $5 in the chat right there, and we'll figure it out. We'll see what everybody thinks. That's actually a good idea. I like that. I got my boy Joey helping me with the chat. That was a good idea. I like it. Yeah, pro wrestling is fake. Yeah, WWE, AEW, New Japan Wrestling, Ring of Honor, AEW, Impact. Yeah, it's all fake. But so is, other stuff you watch on TV. Comedy, horror, going to the movies. It's all fake. It's for your entertainment. So if you're entertained, then it's your thing. If you're not entertained, then it's not your thing. I just saw a question on there. Hold on. Chris Georgia Kane. What do I think it's going to take for our AD and H head coach to get fired? If you're talking about West Virginia, we don't need to fire Neil Brown. That would be stupid. We do need to get a coordinator, a good coordinator. So that's the big question is what names are out there and who is actually gettable for West Virginia. But firing Neil Brown right now, that would be the dumbest thing West Virginia could do. That would be absolute nonsense. We're recruiting at a high level, and you don't fire a coach because your record is 2-3. No, even if we finish, 6-6, 5-7 would be tough to swallow. All right, I'll get to Miami. But I would still keep Neil Brown because of how he's recruiting, and if we weren't losing by large margins, like we've only lost by a total of 12. So you have to keep going. He's still working with the trash leftovers that Holgerson left us, and Holgerson left us in bad shape. Still haven't gotten a full recruiting cycle in, and we have gotten better. It's just that one position, quarterback, and we have a good one coming next year, Nico. So that could be the solution to that. All right, back to the Canes. I think it should have been done. I think Manny Diaz should have been fired. It's been a total disaster this year. Last year was a wasted year. This year's even worse. So Miami can have a losing season if they don't fire him at the end of the season. Something is wrong. Either he's got some dirt on him or something, because Manning needs to be fired. He's just not a good coach. Period. I need to check my time. Alright guys, I gotta eat just a little bit faster because it's 7:40 and Coos Walker is gonna call in, so y'all bear with me. I'm gonna try to eat some of this. Too good to waste. The basic problem for West Virginia this year is our offensive line is very, very young. They are talented, but they're super young, and we have quarterback issues. We're good at running back. We're good at wide receiver. Defense is fine. It's those two main positions. And that's why we're only losing by, 3 points here, 6 there, 3 there. It's because we have, 4/5 of a team, 4/5 of a really good team, but it's that 1/5 that's missing that's keeping us from, getting over the hump. How crazy does this sound? But it's how I feel. I think it's more likely for Texas to drop 40 on Oklahoma than for Oklahoma to drop 40 on Texas. Yeah, I think it's more likely for Texas to score a buttload of points on Oklahoma than the other way around. So if Oklahoma is gonna win this game, they need to keep it low scoring because they have proven they can't score a ton of points. Todd Cortez, yes, Brown needs to go back to the Sun Belt. Wrong answer. That is completely no. Wrong. It's just those two areas that West Virginia is missing in. The offensive line, which we have great talent there. A lot of talent. They're just really, really young. It's the quarterback situation that we were left in. And Neil Brown's recruiting cycle is starting to develop. And next year, we're getting 4-star Nico Markle, highest recruiting class ever in the history of West Virginia is coming in next year. Hopefully, I'm not getting the hiccups. So, saying that Neil Brown needs to go back to the Sun Belt, you don't know much about football. It takes time to develop these things, and maybe he's kind of failed at hitting the transfer portal and getting a better quarterback that way. But other than that, he's doing the best he can with what he was left with. He was left with crap. We have 4/5 of a really, really good team. It's just the offensive line and the quarterback. And next year, the quarterback situation might be fixed with Nico coming in. So, no, that's not correct at all. He has a few missing ingredients on the team. It's not Neil Brown. We're just missing a few things. That's it. And we have way more depth than what we used to. Even as bad as our quarterback situation is, we still have depth there. I mean, so you're basically judging, the entire performance of a coach by certain areas that the team is lacking in. Not certain areas that Neil Brown is lacking in, certain areas that the team's lacking in. So we'll continue to recruit high-level offensive linemen because that's what he's doing. One of our starters, Wyatt Millam, highest recruit out of West Virginia, 4-star. Holgerson never got the best recruit out of West Virginia, and he himself said it was impossible. Well, second year, Neil Brown lands him. And we'll see Wyatt Millam develop as we go. So next year, Wyatt Millam will be even better, and we'll have a better offensive line. They're just really young. I think when I made my West Virginia predictions, I just didn't realize how much the quarterback and the offensive line would affect us. I should have factored that in more. That was on me. I should have. But still, I didn't see us losing to Texas Tech. That's the one thing that does sting a lot. This is really good food, y'all. Really good. So where specifically does West Virginia not have depth? That's my question. We all know we're shaky at the quarterback position. At running back, we have Letty Brown, who's really, really good, and then I believe it's Easdale. Yeah, I haven't seen much of Will Crowder other than the preseason, so I want to. They say he has a good arm, but I'm trusting Neil Brown that he's not ready for game action. So we'll see how that works out. Yeah, Doug Nestor on the offensive line. Like I said, we have a lot of talent on the offensive line. It's they're young, and this is the first year for a lot of these guys around each other. It takes time for the offensive linemen to get used to each other, and they have to work together. It's not this is the offensive line isn't like the quarterback where it's a singular person. They have to operate as a line. So it's taking time for them to mesh and get used to each other. Hold on. I'm missing something. Yeah, West Virginia's defense only dropped off slightly, just like I thought. I did think their offense would be better, but it's not much better. But I think we'll see a big step forward next year because of our quarterback situation and our offensive line growing up. I think we will be better. I really do. Oh, by the way, I need more help from you guys, more than usual, because for whatever reason, Facebook said that I was sharing my content too much, which I share the same amount consistently, and I've been doing it for 2 years. So for whatever reason, on Monday, that particular day, I shared it too much, spammed, whatever you want to call it. So if y'all get the chance, try to share my video in 1 or 2 groups. That's it. You don't have to, go crazy, but 1 or 2 groups. That would help the channel. I would greatly appreciate it. Let me check my phone now. Well, the bad news is it's not ready yet, but the good news is it looks like it will be ready by the time Coos calls in, so we're looking good. Yeah, it's unfortunate that Facebook does stuff like that. Just randomly says, "Hey, you've been spamming," which I don't spam. I actually interact with people, but I do share my stuff a lot. So sometimes they just randomly say I shared it too much. I don't know. Hurry up and get it. You got it?
She says she thinks, but there isn't.
Alright, just tell her it's not there. Because back and forth is not going to be good.
Okay.
Kids, you just never know when they're going to come in. See what I missed real quick. Yeah, Facebook is unpredictable. But I was saying that so that you guys, if you could, copy the link and share it in, one or two Facebook groups here and there, because unfortunately, it is actually a good way to promote my channel. It's like my main avenue of promoting it. So when they shut me down, it kind of limits me. So if you can, it would greatly be appreciated. Neil Brown is in his second year with his own guys. Third year overall, and he still can't win. LMAO. What a dumb comment. Dumb, 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 dumb. That's going to be a good game. Notre Dame at Virginia Tech. I think I'm leaning towards. I think Virginia Tech's going to do it again like they did against North Carolina. Yeah. I might go with the Hokies on that one. Oh, yeah, I don't let the trolls get to me, but I do let them know when they're dumb. Yeah, I do. I think Kentucky beats LSU and goes 6-0. And then the next week at Georgia. Yikes. Yeah, it looks like everybody's saying Kentucky. And this one dude is saying it like 7 times. But yeah, pretty much everybody has Kentucky. Alright, let me get my phone. Might have to change this around a little bit. And y'all make sure to go check out Thrive Fantasy. They're a new sponsor of mine. And I checked it out first before I agreed to them being my sponsor. It's good stuff. And they're one of those sports apps where they've already done the research for you. So, it's a situation where if you want to take a risk, that's up to you. But you see the numbers, you see the percentages, and so if you want to take the better numbers, you can. So it eliminates a lot of research and hassle. As a YouTube creator, it takes a long time to research things sometimes. Yeah, the Thrive Fantasy app. I actually already have it on my phone. Alright, let me get situated, and, Coos, you can call in whenever you want now, sir. We got you. So we have Coos Walker from Coos' Corner. He has his own YouTube channel calling in, and he's a West Virginia fan just like me. So we'll talk some West Virginia and some Big 12 football for a little bit. And then we have David Smoak coming in. A lot of accolades that guy has. So special shout out to Joey Foster, my other sponsor, TriStateWoodSketch.com. He's the one that hooked me up with David Smoak. I don't know how he got him to come on, but he got him, so very excited about that. Yeah, charge is good. We're good. All right, you can call the call-in number now, Coos, whenever you're ready, bud. Why does West Virginia fans hate Texas so much? We don't really hate Texas. We reacted to, what's the right word? How babyfied Texas act whenever we threw the horns down. Like, we were actually, there wasn't really that much of a rivalry before 2008, but when Seals and Greer and whoever else threw the horns down, and then everybody, all the Texas fans started whining about it. That's what started everything. Hey, man, what's going on?
Hey, how you doing?
Pretty good. This is Coos Walker from Coos's Corner. He has a YouTube channel, growing every day. So we appreciate him coming on the show today. Appreciate it, bud.
Appreciate you having me on, man. It's really great to be with you. I appreciate you taking, giving me this opportunity.
Oh, no problem, man. No problem. So, as a West Virginia fan, you feel my pain right now. So we come off an emotional win, a big win against Virginia Tech, and then a close loss to Oklahoma. But we're still feeling good because we pretty much knew we were going to lose to Oklahoma, but we only lose to them by 3, and then Texas Tech happens. Now, my theory is, those 2 games prior kind of emotionally drained us. And that's why we came out flat the first half of the Texas Tech game. What do you think? Do you have pretty much the same thoughts, or do you have a different theory?
I do. In Coach Brown's press conference, he made the mention that he was pissed off, basically, about how they come out and didn't come out with any energy.
Yeah.
But he couldn't explain why, because they had a good week of practice. That's the only explanation I can think of that makes any sense. I think they basically let the like I said in my review video, they let the Oklahoma game beat them twice.
Exactly right. Yes, I agree with that. And I think it was compounded by all the emotion and effort that they had to put into the Virginia Tech wing, because Virginia Tech almost came back on West Virginia and beat us.
Yes, I agree with that. And what you keep in mind, and I think I heard you mention this earlier, West Virginia is still a young team.
Yes.
They've got a lot of sophomores and juniors and probably even some freshmen in that lineup. And they do have some freshmen. I know Wyatt Miles is a freshman.
Yes, he is.
And those guys, you're talking about 18, 19, 20-year-old kids, basically.
Yeah.
And a lot of them have never experienced the highs and lows of college football before, and what it takes to win on a weekly basis. So they're learning. There's a huge learning curve. And
Holgerson, recruited 3-stars consistently. So we're still working with, and there's nothing generally wrong with 3-stars, but when you're trying to win at a high level, you need those 4 and 5 stars. And West Virginia getting their best recruiting class, maybe in history, coming in next year. It's a big knee-jerk react, and I even did it on Saturday, but I still had emotion. But the next day I thought about, watch the game again, and it's not as bad as the 2-3 record that you see. That's what West Virginia fans are focusing on. 2-3, we lost to Texas Tech. Yes, that sucks, but look at the entire picture. Even though we have 3 losses, we've only lost by a total of 12 points. It's not like people have just looked way better than West Virginia.
Exactly. We're 3 possessions away from being 5-0. That's how I look at it.
It is. That's the truth right there. And I know, there's no moral victories, and we always try to spin it the best way possible, and that's true. But it's also true that West Virginia hasn't been dominated in any of its losses.
That's correct. And we think about the climb, and Neil Brown would come in. He knew it was going to take a while to get this program where he wanted it.
Yeah.
Why do the people think he came up with the slogan "Trust the climb"?
Right.
He knew this was not going to be an overnight success.
Right.
He knew it was going to take time. He knew he had to rebuild.
Yeah,
So
he didn't say trust the sprint, did he?
In his first couple of years, we were getting blown out in a lot of these games.
I'm glad, man, I'm glad you said that, because that goes into my next point. Even Dabo Sweeney said this. Listen up, y'all. 3 phases in building a championship football team, okay? Especially when you're starting at the bottom. So when a good coach first gets to a program that's just bad, they're getting, 4 phases, my bad. They're getting blown out all the time. They don't have any chance, and that was the first year of Neil Brown. And then the next phase is they're losing, but they're losing close games, but still losing those 50-50 games. We're still kind of in that area. Then the next phase is we start winning those 50-50 games, have a 9-10, maybe an 11-win season. And then finally, the final stage is what you see with Alabama and Georgia this year. You're just the better team, and you're dominating teams. I think we're kind of in between steps 2 and 3.
I agree with that. That makes sense. And I saw one of your listeners, Gregory Krug. What's up, Gregory? I saw him. He thinks we're being too optimistic. And I understand that. And look, after Saturday's game, I was actually at Saturday's game.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have been. I don't know that anybody was any madder than me. I understand it. I'm disappointed. I did think we would be further along than we are record-wise right now.
Yep.
So it ain't that I'm not disappointed, and it ain't that I don't expect more.
Right.
But I'm just trying to step back and look at the big picture. This is
exactly
a long term. Neil Brown was brought in for the long term. That's why they just gave him an extension.
Yeah, exactly.
He's here for, and we're not. And as bad as this, bad as people don't like to hear this, we're not Alabama. We're not going to compete. We're not expected to compete for the national championship every year. So we're not a program that's going to fire coaches every 2 or 3 years.
Right.
That's
exactly.
not who we are.
Yeah, we can't be that way.
We've got
There's
to give
no
him
way.
time.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And I think once he has a chance to bring in his own guys who fit his own system, his own schemes, and what he wants to do offensively and defensively, especially offense because the defense is playing pretty well right now. But the defense is a lot quicker to implement.
Yeah, I actually feel bad for our defensive players. They keep us in games when we have no business being in the game.
You're absolutely right. The Tech game, perfect example. We don't win that game without those guys. The offense tried to lose the game.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But that being said, the defense, you can't let them off too easy because there's been 3 games now, or well, two primarily the last 2, where they gave up game-winning drives at the end of the game.
Yeah, but I also chalk that up to being gassed at the end of the game because the offense can't score points. We can't sustain drives.
That's part of it, but if you ask their defensive coordinator, he's not going to use that as an excuse.
That's true. Well, you can't. You really can't. I agree with that.
But you're right. It probably did have something to do with it. And I'm sure mentally it can't be easy to continuously have to go out there and essentially shut the other team down all the time.
Yeah.
It's just frustrating. One of the frustrating things as a West Virginia fan, I remember back in the day when Will Greer and those guys were here, man, we could score. We was putting up 50, 60 a game.
Yep.
But the other team was scoring 60 a game.
Had no defense.
We had no defense, and now everything's flipped. When are we ever going to have? When are we going to have to be great on both sides of the ball again? I can't remember the last time we were great on. I guess it was back to 2000. The Pat White guy, 2007.
Yeah, probably 2008, 2009 was our last great year.
But that's what West Virginia. That's what we're craving right there. We want to be great on both sides of the ball again, like we were.
Yeah.
And we don't even have to be great on, but you can be great on one side and good on the other side. You know what I mean?
Exactly. I think that's where we're getting to. I think we'll be able to sustain greatness on the defensive side of the ball. And then especially with the way we're recruiting, we will get to where we're good on offense. And it'll get to a point to where we just need to score enough points to beat, the opponent. And we will. You
Right.
there?
I agree with you. Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought you cut out on me for a second. My bad.
I thought the same thing. No, you're
It
good.
may have been my phone, but no, it's. I agree with you. You're dead on the money. I think we agree on a lot of these, all of this stuff. And one thing too, I don't know how many people heard this, but on one of Tony Cree's on the podcast he does every week, he made a comment the other night. He said, "It's funny. I saw his name up on your poll a minute ago, and it dovetails right into this." But he made a comment. He went back and looked at the numbers, and I think he's going to dive deeper in one of his future shows, but the last 4 coaches at West Virginia: Don Nehlen, Rich Rodriguez, Bill Stewart, Dana Holgorsen.
Right.
They recruited a team that already had 7 to 9 NFL players on it that got drafted.
Wow.
In 3 years. Neil Brown so far in 3 years has had 1. That he inherited. Now there might be a couple off this year's team that he inherited. Maybe Dante Steele might go.
Right.
Maybe Letty Brown. But I mean, you're looking 3 to 4 guys max.
Yep.
That he'll have inherited that goes drafted in the NFL. That's half of what the other guys had.
And I think Holgorsen knew he was on the way out because he made sure to deplete West Virginia on his last year. You notice that?
Yes, I did, and I read something on that. I don't remember. I read this several years ago, and a couple years ago, right after Dana left, and I don't remember where I read it, so I can't give him credit for it. But somebody made the comment that they think Dana knew that year he had Will Greer and those guys was his best chance to win the Big 12.
Yeah.
So he was basically playing and recruiting, bringing transfers in and everything, singled around that one season.
Yep.
Because he knew that was the season. And when he didn't win it, he knew, in his mind, if he couldn't win it that year, he was never going to be able to.
Exactly right. I agree with that.
But so the future be damned, basically. We're going to go for it this year. Now, does that mean he knew he was leaving?
Yeah.
Or he just decided to put all of his eggs in, I got this star quarterback. I may not ever have a guy like this again. We've got to, let's win now. I don't know what his mindset was, but I thought that was a pretty good, it makes sense if you think about it.
Yeah, and I was thinking the same thing. That's why I brought that up.
He must have done a bit better on the defensive side of the ball, though.
Yeah.
As far as bringing guys in, but that's...
I mean, scoring 59 points and not being able to win a game, that's inexcusable. I mean, we had to score 70 to beat Baylor in our first Big 12 game. Come on.
That was nuts. I was at that game as well.
I mean,
nuts.
that was an exciting game to be at. I was there too, but all it took was one possession of not scoring a touchdown, and we would have lost. That was it. That's how bad our defense was. And then he shifts Joe DeForest over special teams, and then our special teams looks terrible. For whatever reason, he did not want to get rid of Joe DeForest, and Joe DeForest was a bad cancer in that locker room. Whatever position he went to coach to, that position immediately went downhill.
I agree with you. I thought the same thing. In my opinion, he's one of the worst assistant coaches we've ever had. Now,
maybe the worst.
Now.
Yeah.
He's somewhere. I just saw his name the other day on the coaching. He's actually doing well wherever he's at now. But when he was at West Virginia, man, he was a dumpster fire. I think him and Dana were like really close friends, is my understanding.
Well, they were called drinking buddies. That's what they referred to him as.
I think that's why he didn't want to fire him.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think the recruiting piece is key because and fans want to. And I made this comment myself. It ain't it don't matter how good you recruit if you can't develop the players.
Yeah.
Well, that's true. You got to do both. But people cannot tell me recruiting doesn't matter because you look at all the the top tier programs like the Alabamas, the Georgias, the Ohio States, and you look at their recruiting numbers every year and tell me that it don't matter.
Yeah.
It matters.
It really does. I think one of the big slip-ups for Neil Brown is whenever you do see a weakness, maybe this year quarterback, until your recruiting does come around, maybe you do need to go find, somebody in the transfer portal that'll fit your system just for 1 year if necessary. I mean, we went out and got Jarrett Daggy, and he did what he was supposed to do last year, but his number's up. He didn't progress any. Maybe he showed signs of progression in preseason. That's why Neil Brown, sang his praises. But in the regular season, he hasn't shown any signs of progression. So, you kind of need to keep your hand in the cookie jar when it comes to the transfer portal, just in case.
Speaking of that, what would be your, and I don't really, I'm not saying that we should do this because I know we got Nico coming next year. I'm excited about Garrett, and I think this Goose Crowder kid could end up being good too. We have on the roster.
Okay.
But when I saw Jacob Zeno's name from Baylor go into the transfer portal, my ears perked up. I'm like, hey, I've seen that kid played against us, if I'm not mistaken. Was it last year, year before? He's got a rifle for an arm.
Yeah, he'd be a good. If we can get a guy like that, maybe mix him in there with Garrett Green instead of Jarrett Daggy. But for whatever reason, Neil Brown is very committed to Jarrett Daggy. I don't know why. Daggy has shown signs of some sort of leadership, but Daggy's biggest problem is this. He has trouble stepping up in the pocket whenever it collapses. He has this issue of stepping side to side, which, basically steps into the sack. I was at that Virginia Tech game. I saw him step into sacks at least twice. And he's got to stop doing that and get rid of the ball. If it's not there, get rid of it. We're taking way too many sacks because, number one, he doesn't step up in the pocket. And number two, he doesn't throw it away.
And the other day of that game, when he took off running and scrambled for like 7 or 8 yards, the crowd went absolutely bananas.
Yeah, he showed signs of some type of escapability.
We were all looking at each other going, did he just do that? Did he just scramble and get yards?
Yeah.
Because he never will do that.
If you didn't know the difference of their numbers, you would have thought it was Garrett Green in there.
Exactly. He's not as fast as Garrett, but at least he's fast enough to get some yards when things break down and keep from taking a sack and having a negative play. I mean, he can at least get 2 or 3, 4 yards,
Yeah, when he makes the right decision.
Exactly.
That's the problem. Is his? I think he's trying to do too much, and so he stays in that pocket just too long, trying to make a play, hoping somebody pops open or something. That clock in his head has got to go off sooner.
Right, I agree. I do agree. I have been on the Daggy bandwagon, so to speak. Now, if anybody saw my halftime reaction video the other day that I did, I said I'm off it now after that first half.
Well, I think he was good.
Second half and plays the best game he's ever played since he's been here.
With Daggy, and by the way, for those of y'all wondering who's on the line, this is Coos Walker from Coos' Corner. He has his own YouTube channel. It's growing pretty good. So he's the one that's on the line. That's what you just said is the exact problem with our offense. Streaks, not consistency. We'll see a good streak where we're like, man, where's this offense been? And then we'll see another streak where did it go?
Exactly. Yeah, and it's just, and I've never thought Jarrett Daggy was some great, awesome quarterback. I've never thought that.
Yeah.
But I also don't think that Garrett Green's ready to be in and be the starter. I think we're just in a predicament. Basically, here's what I've told somebody this other day. I think it was one of my friends. I think Jarrett Daggy's a placeholder at quarterback. We had to have somebody to put in position that was decent and that could at least manage the game.
Yeah.
Until we get these younger guys ready.
Yeah, and I still think Daggy's better than what Kendall was.
To compete for that role, and Daggy won the job over Kendall, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was about to say. He was definitely the better quarterback than Kendall too, because all Kendall did was throw interceptions. See, Kendall and Daggy have two different problems. Kendall, just his timing was way off. He would throw pick after pick after pick. Now with Daggy, he gets sacked way too much. He's thrown a few picks in there, and one really bad one against Maryland. But his biggest issue is getting sacked. So it's like we're trading one issue for the other. But honestly, I would take Daggy's issue over Kendall's issue, because even though we're taking sacks, we're not getting blown out because, we're giving up 3 or 4 interceptions a game.
Right. Yeah, I agree. It's maddening. I mean, I get. It's 1 minute I'm somebody Jarrett Daggy I could scream, and the next minute I'm like, oh, he ain't that bad. I mean, it's just like you said, the inconsistency, man. We just need. It's hard to win at the Power 5 level if you don't have a really good quarterback.
Yes.
A game manager's okay if you want to be 7-8 win team. If you want to be a 7 or 8 win team, you can have a game manager. If you want to compete for conference championships, you need a Will Greer, you need a Geno Smith, you need a whoever. That's needed. And West Virginia has just had other than the transfer portal the last few years, we've just not been able to find anybody.
Yeah, and I
hope and pray that Nico's that guy. But we'll see.
That's what we're seeing right now. We're seeing the consequences of West Virginia having to go to the transfer portal year after year under Dana Holgorsen. Right now, we're seeing those consequences. Now, the good news for West Virginia fans is soon we'll see the benefits of building a football program through recruiting. You can still hit the portal to plug holes, but you don't need to hit the portal for your, main guys. The portal, I think, should be used for, hey, we lost the safety here, or an offensive lineman here, or this year we do need a quarterback, whatever.
Right,
but not to build a team. You don't go to the portal to build a team.
I agree with that, and I think that's what Dana did. And I'll be honest, I think he was. I wasn't a Dana hater, but I think Dana was a little bit lazy when it came to recruiting.
Very lazy.
I've even heard from some people within the WVU media that he didn't go under a lot of recruiting trips. He sent on his assistant coaches all the time. The only time he would go is if it was like an absolute necessity to lock down a big four, a big time, a guy that was really high on their priority list.
Right.
And then he needed to go lock him down, he would go.
Well, why do you think West Virginia started locking down all these high-end recruits? And we're like, man, what? Did our facilities dramatically get better? What is he telling our recruits? Well, it's not that. It's he's actually putting in the effort, going out there, explaining the plan he has in place for West Virginia, and they're buying in.
Absolutely. And he's going after the in-state kids. I mean, Dana was able to land a few in-state kids, but the Steele brothers, for example. But I think those guys would have went to WV regardless who the coach was, because it was in their blood, right?
Yeah.
But the Wyatt Milums, the Doug Nesters, the kid that plays for Tennessee now, I can't remember his name, but he's a lineman he's from West Virginia.
Well, and that was
a recruit. He didn't even go after those guys aggressively because he didn't think he could get them.
That was the recruit that he missed out on, and that's Doug Nestor. We're talking about him. He got recruited by Virginia Tech. Neil Brown comes along and gets Doug Nestor to transfer. So he actually got the guy that Dana Holgorsen missed on. That's
true. Yep, absolutely. Because he wasn't real aggressive in going after a lot of these games, which I don't know why. I think it may have been Nestor that made a comment one time. It was some in-state recruit made a comment that had Neil Brown been there at the beginning of his recruiting process, he probably wouldn't have went to WVU in the first place.
Right.
So,
yes. Absolutely.
And he traveled all the way to, he traveled. One time in my, I live in southern part of West Virginia, and I don't remember Dana Holgorsen ever coming down to our part of the state unless he did one of those caravan things where they travel the state and meet donors.
Yeah.
But I never remember him coming on a recruiting trip. Neil Brown came to Bluefield twice within the first couple months of his, and you ever heard the name Sean Martin?
Yeah.
He's from Bluefield. He's a defensive tackle.
Hold on. We have a Pitt fan in the chat. Hold on.
Uh-oh.
Let me read this. I usually don't do this, but listen. Now, I don't know the reason that he's talking about as far as Penn State or Ohio State. This is the tail end of this chat, but it says, whatever reason that was mentioned, he says that's the same reason why... Oh, I read that wrong. Hold on. I thought he said that's the reason why West Virginia didn't want to be in the ACC. But he says that's why I didn't want West Virginia to be in the ACC. What kind of chat... Y'all explain to me what happened, because I'm lost on that one. Go ahead, bud. I'm trying to keep up on this ACC talk in the chat.
That's okay. That's fine. No worries, man. If we need to switch gears, we can. I was just saying to Sean Martin, back, playing real well right now. I think he's actually giving them a little bit more than they anticipated he would this season at defensive end or defensive tackle. Yes,
very much.
He's a Bluefield kid.
Hakeem Mesidor, man. That dude is he's a beast.
Yeah, they went all the way to Canada to get him. Just things. He's thinking outside the box, and he's doing things Dana wouldn't do because why? Because he's a worker. He's got a work ethic. He'll do what it takes to get the job done.
Yeah, I
And
got
I
you.
just don't know if Dana was. I just don't know if Dana was willing to put the work and time in. Maybe he was. Maybe I don't know. Like I said, I'm not a Dana hater. I didn't like how he left us. He said some negative things about us when he left. But
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I wasn't a hater of his when he was here, but when he left, yeah, it was official.
I even defended Dana a lot over the years. When during some of those tougher seasons. But
Honestly, I did not. And this goes back to I believe it was the 2016 season when we had that 10-win season. After that season, I said, guys, it's time for us to fire Holgerson. And everybody's like, what? We just had a 10-win season. Why would you say that? I'm like, well, because the Big 12 was down this year, and the two halfway decent teams that we played, we got slammed. And I said, and I'm predicting us to get slammed by Miami in the bowl. And what happened? We got slammed by Miami. So we were good at beating mediocre teams, but we were never good at beating good teams. I wanted to ask you this question since you're a West Virginia fan. How do you feel about West Virginia going to the ACC?
Well, obviously, I've watched a lot of your videos, and I'll take you at your word that you have a source.
Yep.
I mean, until you prove me different, why would I accuse you of lying? That's the way I look at it. Number two.
Well, I mean, everybody does, but
that's okay. Number two. You mentioned the Tony Caridi podcast a few weeks ago on your show.
Yeah. He actually got chastened for
podcast.
that. He actually got chastened for that.
Did he really? I figured he would.
Yep, he did.
But he tried to clarify his comments on a podcast like the following week, and he didn't really explain anything. He kind of just said it again with less detail. If that makes sense. He said, all I meant was you just got to wait and good things will happen, and West Virginia's going to be okay. That's all he said the second time around. So my gut feeling. I also saw on Twitter another. I don't know who this person is. Don't know how honest they are. Don't know anything about them. But somebody posted on Twitter the other day that they have an inside source who claims that Dr. Gee met with Senator Joe Manchin, and Senator Manchin asked Dr. Gee if he needed to intervene.
Yes, that did happen.
And get involved.
That did happen.
And Dr. Gee's statement was, "No, you don't.
Yeah.
There's no need. Everything's fine."
That actually did happen.
I'm paraphrasing, but that's basically.
Yeah. Like we were talking the other day, Gordon Gee, he is an immense asset for West Virginia. He is plugged in everywhere. He's been a part of the ACC board. He's been the president over there at Ohio State. He knows Jim Phillips very, very well, the ACC commissioner. They talk a lot, and from what my sources told me, he's pretty much the reason why West Virginia is getting the okay from the ACC. He explained the whole academic situation, why the scores are the way they are, and apparently they reran the numbers with certain factors in play, like the acceptance rate and not sending their lower academics elsewhere, and the scores actually fit in with the ACC. So,
wow.
Yeah, he's the entire reason why West Virginia is getting the okay from the ACC.
Yeah, he's got connections everywhere. He's connected to like 5 or 6 different university presidents in the ACC right now. A lot of them have either worked for him. Some of them he's even hired himself.
Yeah.
So you mean to tell me if somebody hires you, and then it's time for you to help them out, and they've been influential in your career, you're not going to return the favor if you can, and it's ethical, obviously. But, I mean, that's called networking. That's how life works. That's how you get places in life.
And another thing is people are looking things in the here and now. They don't a lot of people don't understand the bigger picture. Like, we gained UCF, Cincinnati, and Houston, and BYU. Now the Big 12 is going to stay a Power 5, and we're going to make more money than ACC. Wrong answer. With Texas and Oklahoma leaving the Big 12, the Big 12's revenue is going to go way low, okay? And I know the ACC is having a bad year in football, but that doesn't have anything to do with, adding people and what you make in money. Now, it could affect eyeballs, stuff like that with Clemson being down, but adding West Virginia will actually help the ACC. West Virginia is going to be an asset to the ACC because not only are we bringing our fan base, their eyeballs to the TV sets and in the stands, but we're going to bring more of your fan base. Pitt, I'm talking to Pitt fans. I'm talking to Virginia Tech fans, Syracuse fans, Louisville fans, Boston College, Miami, and probably the rest of the ACC, to be honest with you. We'll bring more of your own eyeballs to the games and watching TVs. And the ACC will make more money, and this BS contract they have with ESPN, it can be reworked because of adding new teams, just like how the Big 12 lost Oklahoma and Texas. They're not going to keep that money whenever Texas and Oklahoma leave. They'll pay their exit fees, or they'll stay till 2025. Either way. But either way, that contract's going to change. Same thing goes when West Virginia goes to ACC. So everything doesn't stay... The best way I can explain it to people is things don't stay the same except for people, switching conferences. Oh, the money stays the same. It's just they're in a different conference. No. When somebody leaves, the money goes down. When somebody is gained, the money goes up. Contracts are reworked according to conference realignment.
You're absolutely right. It's the college football landscape is definitely not going to stop changing anytime soon. And this whole alliance thing, they're not going to expand. I think it's a bunch of horse manure. And you notice the ACC never came out and said that too. I don't know if anybody caught on to that.
Oh yeah, I did.
The Pac-12 was the only one who came out and actually said that.
Yep. The Pac-12 is holding on for dear life right now, to be honest with you.
What's that?
I said the Pac-12 is holding on for dear life right now, to be honest with you.
Oh, the Pac-12 is a dumpster fire. To be honest, it wouldn't surprise me to see them collapse at some point and end up worse than the Big 12. But anyway, that's a whole other discussion. I don't want to get sidetracked, but
no, that's fine, man. We'll talk about whatever.
And another thing people can't forget to either about the West Virginia ACC possibility is Jim Clements, president of Clemson.
Yep.
Used to be the president of WVU, and he left on good terms.
Yep.
Shane Lyons used to actually work in the front office of the ACC. I mean, there's so many connections. It's like
West Virginia's already in the ACC just without officially being voted in. We got so many people that have gone from West Virginia to there, and so many people that have gone from there to West Virginia. So it's like we're already a part of the ACC. It's not official yet.
Right. And Whit Babcock, the AD at Virginia Tech, he's a West Virginia alum.
Yep.
I mean, it's just there's West Virginia connections everywhere in the ACC now that wasn't there 10 years ago when the last conference realignment stuff happened.
That's the biggest difference right there. You hit it. What's the difference now? Why would they accept West Virginia now when they didn't back then? Well, to be honest with you, whenever Maryland bolted, they actually did offer West Virginia, but the Big 12 offered more money, so West Virginia took the Big 12, and it was kind of an 11th hour type of thing. So if we would have had the same connections as we had now, it wouldn't have been an 11th hour like it was last time. And that's why it's not going to be that way this time. Because, there's a lot more roots and connections with the ACC for West Virginia. Teams in the ACC, they definitely want to play West Virginia, and they knew West Virginia is going to bring them money.
I agree. I mean, look at the TV numbers. The Tech game drew awesome. It was one of the highest grossing noon games they've had in a long time, I think.
Yep. The Oklahoma game did big numbers. Big numbers.
I mean, obviously, you got to give Oklahoma some credit for that, obviously, too, and Virginia Tech. But, I mean, I don't think people outside of West Virginia, Golden Blue Dude, I don't think people understand. I run into West Virginia fans everywhere I go. I can travel to Myrtle Beach. I can travel to Florida. I can travel to Tennessee. Anywhere in the country, and I will run into somebody with a Gold Blue Mountaineer shirt on.
Definitely.
They're everywhere.
I work up here in the upstate of South Carolina, and people always ask me, what part of West Virginia you're from?
Yep. I mean, it's people, we have a large, even people who may not be diehards like you and I, they still follow the program because they respect us. They like what we stand for as a program and as a state, all that stuff. And West Virginia, people are interested in West Virginia football.
Yeah.
Regardless of what all these talking heads say or whatever you want to call them, these naysayers, West Virginia, and obviously I'm biased, but I think we add a lot of value
Yeah.
to the ACC or any conference for that
even
matter.
Matthew Bryant said the Texas Tech game, when we played Texas Tech, it is the second highest viewed college football game that ESPN has aired so far. I didn't know that.
Wow.
That's
I didn't
crazy.
either. Who said that?
Matthew Bryant, one of the people in the chats.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I hadn't heard that either.
Yeah, we went down. Of course, we went down 17-0 at halftime, but we built some drama on that game in the second quarter. So even non-Texas Tech fans, non-West Virginia fans, were starting to tune in there at the end of the game.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah, it's so I really think that the negativity about West Virginia, nobody wants West Virginia. I just don't believe. I don't believe it a bit. I think we're attractive.
Yeah.
We may not be attractive to everybody, and we may not be the most attractive, but we bring value, and I'll stand by that till I go to my grave. But
that's a good point you just said. We don't bring value to everybody. That's why the ACC is specifically where West Virginia needs to go, because that's where they do bring value. I'll be honest with you. West Virginia doesn't bring much value to the Big Ten. They don't bring all that much value to the SEC, but West Virginia brings a crap ton of value to the ACC.
Yes.
There's a big difference in that. It's not, West Virginia is just, this great brand and brings value to everybody. Even as a West Virginia fan, I can admit that that's not true. But the ACC specifically, with all of our old rivalries, the Appalachian culture, the geography, we're a perfect fit. Of course, West Virginia would be a strong asset for the ACC. And even, it's not just football. I mean, the ACC is known to be a basketball conference. Well, guess what? West Virginia has a very strong basketball program as well. In fact, we're only one of 3 programs that's in top 20 in all-time wins in football and basketball. It's West Virginia, Notre Dame, and Texas.
Yes, sir. I mean,
which is a blessing and a curse, because I like being pretty good in both, but I don't know. Maybe I would rather be, national champions and all the time in one over the other. That's a difficult thing to think about.
Yeah, it's funny. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and they were actually talking about that. Are we a basketball school or a football school? And they said we really can't. We don't really know.
We're almost too balanced,
And one of the guys made a comment that that's probably a good thing if you don't know, because Kansas, they definitely know what they are. Connecticut, they know what they are. I mean, so you're right. It's a blessing and a curse, but we just have that big goose egg in the national championships, man, and that's one of those fans. That's what I think. That's one of the reasons our fans are so rabid, is we want that national championship so dang bad that's eluded us for so long, and we've been so close.
Even people that I've talked about from other fan bases, they're like, I don't understand how y'all don't have a national championship. I'm like, the biggest issue with West Virginia not having a national championship is because we don't get there often enough. We've been there several times, but not consistently. So it's like, when we get our shot, we better take it and get it right there, because, who knows when we'll be back.
Exactly. And that's why, and I think personally, a lot of people are going to get mad at me for this statement, especially after that game last weekend. I think Neil Brown's the guy that can get us there.
Yes, I agree with that. And I never said that. You can go back when I started this channel talking about Holgerson. You can ask my family, longtime friends. I never could say that about Holgerson. The best that I could say about Holgerson is, well, I hope he gives us a chance against Oklahoma this year. That was it.
Yeah.
That was the most faith I could put in him.
Yeah, he just wasn't. I look at Dana Holgerson, to be honest. I still look at him as an offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
He's great at it. Don't get me wrong. He might be one of the best to ever do it.
He revealed his peak early in his career, and once he peaked, that was it. He plateaued. He peaked, then immediately plateaued. And with Neil Brown, it's going to take some time, and we're going to have some patience. But he's nowhere close to peaking. This is a climb. It's going to take time. It's going to take time.
Exactly. And if he keeps recruiting like he is, keeps building the program the way he's building it, and keeps doing the things he's actually taken a lot of lessons from Dabo Sweeney. He's actually visited Clemson's program and took notes and kind of saw what they do, and he's emulating some of that stuff. So I really think he's moving us in the right direction. It may not be as fast as a lot of us want, but
that's the thing.
He's moving there.
People want it to be faster.
Yeah. Do you have another call to get on at 8:30?
9 o'clock.
9. Okay. I just want to make sure I wasn't over my time here.
No, you're good, man. But whenever you need to get off, man. If you got family things to do or whatever,
I'm fine. I didn't want to mess you up at your show, brother.
No, you're good. He's gonna call in at 9. I'll probably have a little bit of spacing between you and him.
Right.
So maybe another. Let me see. Maybe another 5 minutes or so.
Yeah, that's cool. 8:40. We got around 8:45 or so.
Yeah, that'll work.
Yes, that's fine. I'm cool with that. I want to respect your time. You're nice enough to have me on, so.
Well, people have been nice to me, and I promise myself whenever my channel starts growing. Now it's still not a big channel, but it has grown. Try to help other people out. So that
you've taken off, man. I congratulate you. You're one of the reasons I'm doing this.
Oh, really? That's cool, man. I like that.
Well, I've been thinking about it for a while, and then I found your channel a few weeks ago, or months. Well, but I guess it's been a few months ago now. And I thought, man, that's pretty cool. I love your passion. I could tell you were passionate about West Virginia and college football.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought, and I am too. And I'd always thought about doing. I'm like, that looks pretty fun. It looks like something I would like to do.
It is fun. If you're having fun, it comes through the screen. That's what people relate to is when they know that you enjoy it and you're having fun.
It's a lot of work now. It's a lot more work than I anticipated.
Oh, man. Yeah.
But it is fun. I enjoy it. But no. And a local friend of mine also encouraged me to do it too. So I pressed the record button and got started, man. But,
and the crazy thing is, I went to the West Virginia game, Virginia Tech game, and like 4 or 5 people came up to me and wanted to take selfies. Told me they see my channel. I'm like, I'm thinking to myself, we just hit 4,000. That's still not big. So for 5 or 6 people to come up to me like that, that blew my mind. It really did. It blew my mind.
Cool, man. You've done well, and you deserve it because I can tell you put the time and the work in, and you've done what it takes.
This is something that's special to me. So, when I started a YouTube channel, it had to be something that I absolutely was obsessed with, and had to be special. It's not something that you're like, well, maybe this can be fun. We'll try it out. If that's your attitude going into it, it's not going to work. So
right. And I don't know, and the niche you and I picked is one of the hardest ones to grow a channel in, I think.
People getting past me being a West Virginia fan is like pulling teeth. It is serious. It takes a while for people, but once they do get past that, they start coming around, and that's what you wait on.
Yep, I got it, man. Well, listen, I'll let you. I know we're getting close to that point where you need some space there, and you probably need to answer some questions on your chat and whatnot. So I'll let you run. But hey, listen, I really appreciate you letting me come on again.
All right, no problem, man. Anytime.
Let's do it again.
This is Coos Corner. He has his actual name is Coos Walker, but his YouTube channel is Coos Corner. So go check him out. Tell him real quick what you do on your YouTube channel.
Basically, I'm similar to Golden Blue Dude. I talk West Virginia Mountaineers, but I also talk, just college football in general. I do, I put out my rankings every week. I put out, I usually give out, take a game other than West Virginia and do a review of that. Obviously, I do a review and preview of all West Virginia's games. I've done a video recently on, coaches that are on the hot seat, just anything college football related, I just love the sport. I'm passionate about it, and I just want to talk about it. So
Absolutely.
This is the best avenue to do that.
I got you, man. Hey, and by the way, chat, me and him are actually going to do videos together. He's going to do one for my channel. I'm going to do one for his channel, so keep your eye out on that. And go check out Kuz's Corner and hit the subscribe button. Good stuff over there. Great call, man. I appreciate you calling.
Yes, sir. Thanks again.
All right, man. We'll talk to you later.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye. I'm definitely going to have him back on the show more. Very engaging. Actually, sometimes whenever somebody calls in and is a guest on here, as the guest, you want to be, steer the conversation because you don't want to put too much pressure on your guest. But he did a good job on steering the conversation sometimes. So that was a good call. We'll definitely do another call in with him. Let's see what we're on here. Looks like we're talking about Baylor and West Virginia and Pitt and Virginia Tech. It looks like Homer Simpson is getting in with it. Somebody. I encourage trash talk though. I don't frown on it or cut it out or anything like that. No. One of the best things about college football is the trash talk. So in about 18 minutes, we're going to have David Smoak on here. Biggest guest I've had on my show. Don't know how my sponsor landed him, but somehow he did. This guy, the accolades, I know I mentioned earlier, I got to mention it again. Of course, the founder of Smoky.com. Over 3 decades of covering sports, in with ESPN in Central Texas. He was on KTBB Radio, Sikkim Sports. He covers the Dallas Cowboys. He was on KLTV, KETK, NBC 56. He was their lead sports anchor. KFXK, Fox, CBS 19. He's covered the Cowboys, Rangers training camp, the Masters, NCAA Final Four, NBA Finals, NFL Draft, Big 12 Tournament, and just about every Super Bowl you can think of. So we're looking forward to his call in. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and use the bathroom real quick. So that way I don't have to pee during the call with David Smoak. So quick restroom break, but I'll be right back. And $5 super chat for a question that you want to be featured in the poll. So if you want to see what the chat thinks and you want to ask a question and us to make a poll about it, it's just a $5 super chat. So it's not just asking a question, it's, you're getting the entire chat to vote on the question that you choose for the poll. So yeah, $5 super chat. And also, if you want me to ask a specific question to David Smoak, I'll go any size super chat as long as it's $2 and above. $2 and above, you got a question for David Smoak, you want me to ask it, $2 and above super chat. So quick restroom break. I'll be right back. Okay. It looks like Gregory, is that Krug? I got cut off. I think it's Krug. He has a poll question. He says, poll question, who is the greatest quarterback in WVU history? I actually did a video on that about a year ago. But he's listing Major Harris, Pat White, Geno Smith, or Jeff Hostetler. Y'all make sure to vote in the poll. We will create the poll. I think Joey will create the poll, and you can vote in the poll, and it'll show the actual percentages. So Joey will do that, and Joey will have to actually relay the results of that, because for whatever reason on my end, it never shows me the poll. Last time me and Joey had a conversation, he's like, hey man, how did you like the polls? I'm like, what are you talking about? What polls? He's been creating polls and keeping you guys engaged, and I didn't even know it because on my end, it's not showing me. So, I will rely on him to let me know the results in that poll. But that's a good question. I like it. I'm not trying to influence voting here, but to me, it's really close between Pat White and Major Harris, because you're looking at two different eras of West Virginia football. I think Major Harris, kind of helped put West Virginia on the map, kind of broke us open. But Pat White, man, he was 4-0 in bowls. That might be still an NCAA record. I'm not sure. Another quarterback might have done that by now. But whenever he did it, no other quarterback had ever done that. 2 BCS bowl wins, the highest winning percentage. The highest winning percentage as far as starting quarterback in West Virginia history. Kuz's Corner says, GBD, we have a subscriber from Canada. His name is Dwight Howard. I like it. That's a name that's easy to remember for sure. And Joey says, so far, Pat is leading by 53%. So the voting is close on that one. Y'all know your West Virginia quarterbacks. And if I had to take a guess, it's probably close between Pat and Major Harris. The others probably get votes, but it's probably the closest between Pat White and Major Harris. A few people like Geno. Probably because of recent memory. That's another thing you got to take into consideration. It's not who you remember the most. It's, you've seen them all. You've heard them all. Who is the best out of those four? So, yeah. A lot of people, yeah. I remember that Orange Bowl. I definitely remember that Orange Bowl. That was, but here's the thing. I would gladly switch that butt whipping we gave, Clemson for the 2 national championships that Clemson got after that. Yeah, I would swap and take the butt whipping for the 2 national championships. West Virginia, we hold the title of the all-time winningest program to never have won a national championship. I hate that title. That tells you that we've had a lot of success. Yes. Very good years, really good years, but never won a national championship. And that's another thing about the video that I did whenever we lost to Texas Tech. It's so stinking difficult being a West Virginia fan that sometimes you really do wish that if you could, without regretting it or without emotional consequences, you could quit being a West Virginia fan and be an Alabama fan or whatever. Like, for real, just switch in real life just for, maybe a year, just to know what it's like to win a national championship. Just to know what it's like to not have to go through all this crap all the time. Basically, year after year after year, it's rough. It is very rough being a West Virginia fan, and it takes years off your life every single year. Heartbreaking losses and even stressful wins. That's still stress. Good stress or bad stress is still stress. So it's tough. It is very, very tough being a West Virginia fan. What's the numbers on the poll so far, Joey? Is it still Pat? I'm really curious about that. And is there any way to like keep reposting that throughout just to kind of update the numbers? I don't know if there's any way to do that. I just want to see what the final vote is at the end of this show. That's a good poll. Anybody else, if you want a poll for us to create for the chats to vote on, all you have to do is send a $5 super chat and you ask your question. Just say, this is a poll question for Golden Bluted. And then you ask the question and give your options. You know, whether you want to give, whether it's A or B, or 3 options or 4 options, whatever. We'll take a poll. Just like, what was his name? Let me go back up. Just like Gregory Krug. And he's the one that created the Who's the Greatest Quarterback in WVU history. And he had 4 different options. And it doesn't have to be West Virginia related. You know, who's the all-time greatest college football team of all time? That would be a good one. So it looks like Pat has 54%, Major has 38%, so those were the 2, and then Jeff has 4%, and Gino has 4%. Yeah, Major Harris was one of kind as well. So poll ends in 2 minutes if you want to vote. And if anybody else wants to submit a poll question, like the one I just asked, who's the greatest college football team of all time, all you have to do is hit that little $sign you see there of your screen. That little $sign is like on the right hand. Hit that, hit the $5 option, ask the question, give the options, and boom, we will create the poll, and we will have the chat vote on the poll and see what their opinion is and see who thinks what. Apparently, the chat thinks that Pat White is the greatest West Virginia quarterback of all time. They might be right about that. That's a pretty good one. Man, now that one poll question would be pretty good, wouldn't it? Who's the greatest college football team of all time? That's a good one. I would lean towards the 2001 Miami Hurricanes. That's always been my pick. But then came the 2019 LSU Tigers and the 2020 Alabama Crimson Tide. But you also have those Nebraska ones in there too. 2004 USC. And then the Texas that had Vince Young. A lot of great choices in there. A lot of great choices. So that would definitely be an interesting poll question. And the other poll question is probably about to expire here in just a little bit. So we'll get the final results. It looks like we have about 5 minutes till David Smoak calls in. Man, this is a great one. Pat White won the poll, but his percentage did go down to 51%. So, but you know, a win is a win. Nebraska is David Smoak's favorite team, even though he isn't happy with them. I didn't know that. I thought, for some reason, I thought Baylor was his favorite team. Yeah, Georgia Tech fans are not especially happy right now. I did a live show with Sea-Dog last night. Yeah, he's a Georgia Tech fan. He's not doing well right now as far as his fandom goes. He actually went to that game in Atlanta, and it was bad. They got absolutely destroyed. That's going to be an interesting game, Virginia, because Pitt has to go to Virginia Tech. Yeah, I got 5 minutes to call him. Send that. The one mistake, Joey, that I made was I had you send it to my other phone. If you would, text his number to the call-in phone, because I went live through this phone and I forgot that I had got his information through this phone. So if you would, text me David Smoak's number to my call-in number. I forgot to do that. That's totally my fault. That's on me, not you, man. Just making sure. No, you actually did text it to me on this phone. Good job. Good job. You got all bases covered. Awesome, man. Awesome. So disregard that last comment. Let me just write it down real quick. So, okay, got it. You already had it covered, man. I don't even know why I worry, man. I know you got me. You're probably less forgetful than what I am. Good job with that. I definitely had to get that burp out before I call David Smoak. Remember, I'd just eaten before I got on here. So, final poll. It looks like Pat White was voted the greatest quarterback of all time. And I didn't want to give this away because I didn't want to influence the poll. But whenever I made my video I think it was about a year and a half ago, I had Pat White as the greatest of all time. So now that the poll is done and over with, maybe later on this evening or tomorrow, whatever, might want to go back in my videos and check out my greatest quarterback of all time. I had Pat White, and that actually turned out to be a good video. So we will. Give me 1 second here. Okay.
Hi, this is David.
Yes, David, this is Golden Blue Dude. How are you this evening?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much.
You ready to talk some college football?
Yeah, I am.
All right.
I sure am.
Before we get into that, let me remind everybody, this is David Smoak. A lot of accolades, over 3 decades of covering sports. Covered ESPN Central Texas. He was on KTBB Radio, Sikkim Sports. Covered the Dallas Cowboys, KLTV, KETK, NBC 56, CBS 19, KFXK. A lot of stuff, and he's covered some big events like the Cowboys, Rangers training camp, the Masters, NCAA Final Four, NBA Finals, NFL Draft, Big 12 Tournament, and almost any Super Bowl you can think of. I had to designate 2 minutes to tell everybody all your accolades, man. It's a long list. Thank you for coming on the show.
You know what that just means? I'm old. I've been doing this for 40 years coming up in November, and I've been very fortunate to be at some of the great events. And yeah, I appreciate that. You didn't have to do all that. You could have just introduced me. I host a podcast on 365 Sports on YouTube that's gone nuts since the news about Texas and Oklahoma and the SEC. We've gained a lot of people that from areas that otherwise did not really listen to us because we were mainly Baylor and somewhat Big 12 centric. But it's been one amazing ride really since all that came down in late July.
Oh yeah, I agree with you. And you know, I try to check your live shows out every time I can and comment in the comment section. I actually have a poll question in my comment section. Thank you, John Park, for your $25 super chat. He says, what is the most improved NCAA football team this year from last year to this year in the entire country? He doesn't have a list. I'm guessing he's having Joey create the list of 4 teams, and Kentucky has to be one of them. So you think on that, Joey, and remember, Kentucky has to be one of them, okay? And I would actually put Kentucky on that list. Big game for both of our teams, Baylor and West Virginia. Both of our teams actually coming off a loss. So this is hopefully going to be a bounce back for West Virginia, but for you guys, hopefully a bounce back for the Baylor Bears. How do you feel about this game?
Yeah, it's very intriguing because, and I've said this on the show really since Saturday when we we do a pregame that's a couple of hours out in front of Baylor playing whatever kickoff time they have. So the Texas Tech and West Virginia game, I'll walk into our studio and I see the score, and I do a lot of stuff Saturday mornings that are high school football related that kind of summarize the night before. So I kind of know the games are going, which ones are going on, and obviously there were some important games this past weekend: Cincinnati, Notre Dame, and Arkansas getting drilled by Georgia. But and there was a couple of others, but the Big 12 games, I don't know. I just sometimes there's so many games going on. I walk in our studio and I see the screen. And it's 17-0 Texas Tech, and I was like, "What?" Because we saw what Tech did down in Austin. They lost their quarterback, and they were a mess. And that was a hell of a deal for Tech to play like that the way they did throughout the game and eventually win it. But I think West Virginia may have had a little hangover from how tough that loss was to Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And then Baylor kind of had a little bit of a funk themselves after the dramatic win against Iowa State. I don't think that they were reading the headlines or whatever. I think both of these, one, we know both of these, this is a must win.
Yes.
It's a must win for West Virginia. It's a must win for Baylor as well. And it's not so much, neither one of these teams, I think, when the season began, if you had like your top tier, I think it's fair to say, and it was pretty much like this when it came to the media poll in the Big 12, Oklahoma and Iowa State. A lot of folks thought that maybe this is the year, but Oklahoma just like clockwork when it comes to this. But and then you had to go, okay, is Oklahoma State in that mix, or is it going to be? A lot of people thought that Gary Patterson had a pretty good thing set up, and of course they've lost a couple of games in a row. And then I think it was like West Virginia, Baylor, and Kansas State, and you just didn't know.
Yeah,
but
the middle of the pack.
And Baylor, of course, coming off a 2-7, but have had the nice start, had the great win against Iowa State. So I think that if these two, whoever can win this weekend, obviously West Virginia needs to win. Baylor's played one extra game because Kansas was early.
Yeah.
If Baylor can bounce back, beat West Virginia, they're in a stretch of 4 straight weeks at home. Now, they're home against West Virginia, a non-conference home game against Brigham Young. Then they have the off week, which means they'll be home.
Right.
And then they have Texas. So if they can win Saturday, and I think this is probably, if I'm not a big gambler, I'm not a guy that like bets on games or anything, I think you have to, Baylor's a slight favorite, but I'm not so sure the game's not going to be just like the one they just played or like the West Virginia-Oklahoma game. I don't know if either one of these teams offensively is in a mode where they're going to explode and score a lot of points. We know how good West Virginia's defense is, right? I mean, we know up front West Virginia has given Baylor, even when Baylor's won, trouble. I mean, it's like there's 9 Stills brothers. I know there's one gone, but it seems like they dominated.
Yeah.
So I see Baylor only because they're at home. If the game was in Morgantown, then I would think West Virginia is the favorite. I think it's that kind of a game.
Yeah.
It's kind of 50-50, and then you possibly get a little edge because you're at home.
Yes, I agree with that completely. And the thing about West Virginia is, to me, and this is not just being a homer, their record is a bit deceiving. If you look at it from a fan that doesn't know West Virginia, doesn't know the scores, haven't watched the games, and you see 2-3, oh, West Virginia, you're trash. Well, the thing is, West Virginia has a great defense, and we've lost those 3 games by a combined 12 points. That's basically 3 possessions. 3 possessions, separates us from 2-3 to being undefeated, 5-0. But we've made just enough mistakes to be 2-3. So the big thing for West Virginia is we have to learn to stop shooting ourselves in the foot. And it started immediately in this season against Maryland. We had 4 daggum turnovers, one of them in the red zone, where even if we would have kicked a field goal, we would have went up by 1 point. What happens? He throws an interception in the end zone, and they end up scoring a touchdown, pad their lead, and we lose by 6. We have to get rid of those turnovers. You can't win a game committing committing turnovers 3-4 times a game. That's got to stop.
Yeah, and that's the one thing, Baylor last week forced 3 interceptions. Spencer Sanders is going to, Daggy and Sanders have kind of that drive you nuts type of mentality. At times they can get red hot, like Daggy did in the second half against Tech, and at times you're like, what's he doing? And the same thing with Spencer Sanders. He threw the ball. Baylor had 3 picks. One of them was because of pressure. The other 2 were just like, what's he doing? but Baylor couldn't take advantage of them. They still really never took advantage of the mistakes. But if Daggy throws it up a couple of times, he's going to get picked. This is a ball hawking secondary that Baylor has, but they have not been able to stop the run. So that's interesting because West Virginia, even with Letty Brown, they've struggled running the football. So it's kind of like one of these two, whoever can fix their problem. Baylor not stopping the run, and West Virginia has not been able to run. Whoever can maybe do the opposite has obviously a great chance to win the game. Baylor's offense was really, really good that first half with Iowa State. They looked almost flawless the way they did what they did against Iowa State, who we know is really, really good. But really for the last game and a half, second half against Iowa State, and most of the game against Oklahoma State, the offense has kind of been not quite where they were last year, because last year was awful on offense, but they just really haven't been able to get in any kind of groove. And of course, I always am one of these guys that talks about how the other team has players on scholarship too, so they got to get credit for that as well.
Yeah, and another thing that I'm trying to figure out for West Virginia, especially this past game, if Winston Wright has some kind of issue, I don't know, injury or something as far as returning the ball, I don't know about it, because they've been sending Easdale back there to return punts. So we need to get Winston Wright back there fielding punts and kickoffs, because, he took one to the house against LIU, and he near ran one back against Maryland. So if we could get an edge on the special teams, that would be a much-needed boost for West Virginia as well, because I don't know if Baylor's offense is streaky like ours, but West Virginia's offense is very, very streaky. We'll go through these long stretches where we can't score a single point. Then all of a sudden we get hot and we score in 4 straight possessions. That's basically what happened in the Texas Tech game. In the first half, we couldn't score a point to save our lives. And then second half kickoff, we score on the 4 straight possessions. So we got to figure out how to be more consistent on offense.
Yeah, Baylor has been, again, I thought the first half against Iowa State, they almost dialed up the perfect game plan. With everything they were doing. And then Iowa State just made some really good adjustments, and Baylor kind of started to get tightened up a little bit. And Iowa State is just like the game in 2019 that Baylor won on a field goal at the end of the game to win it, which was a great game. Same place, McLean Stadium. Baylor had a big lead at halftime, and here comes Iowa State. Baylor has a tendency to be streaky. The difference is this year's offense, at least if you're streaky, that means at times it's going to be streaky good.
Yep.
And last year, they were rarely ever good. There was no streaky because most of the time the offense was just so bad they couldn't protect Charlie Brewer. He wasn't the best either. They could not run the ball at all. And so other than the game when they came back and beat Kansas State and then, of course, beating Kansas, they just were terrible. Let's be honest, the offensive line was a mess. So they've at least shown some rhyme or reason. Now, I do think Jeff Grimes, the offensive coordinator, they've also played against 2 really good defensive teams, Iowa State and then also Oklahoma State, who's really pretty good. Yeah. And now here's a team that's again very similar in what West Virginia does. So maybe by seeing the 2 they've seen the last 2 weeks, it helps you because obviously those 2 teams defensively are very, very good. So there's some things that West Virginia does that maybe you can adjust to now that you've had a full week of practice since that loss to Oklahoma State.
Yeah, I agree with that. And as a West Virginia fan, the thing that's super frustrating, and I mentioned this earlier in the show, but I think we have 4/5 of the ingredients to have a really good team. We have a good defense, including secondary, linebacker, defensive line. Our wide receivers are fine. We have a good running back. Our problem is our offensive line, and of course, the biggest position on the field, the quarterback position. So that's the frustrating thing about being a West Virginia fan this year is we have a great defense, one of the best in the Big 12, and our wide receivers are fine, running back's fine, but we have a young offensive line and a quarterback who cannot step up in the pocket to save his life. So, if Daggy can learn how to step up and Garrett Green have a little bit more patience instead of one read jump, because that's what he does. He has this one read, and then if he's not open, he's running. If he could be a little bit more patient, our offense could get in rhythm, and instead of being, a 1/4 streak offense, maybe we could be a 3/4 streak offense.
Yeah, I know, and that's that. I've watched them enough. I watched them against Oklahoma. Obviously, Oklahoma's defense is pretty darn good too. But yeah, it's and here's the thing: it's that's kind of the way it is now. Alabama, Clemson up until this year. Obviously, some other teams, Ohio State up until the last year or two. And, here you have Clemson without an offensive line this year. They also lost Trevor Lawrence. And I'm not even trying to put West Virginia and Baylor in that conversation. But what I'm saying is not everybody has the perfect team, and surely not Baylor and West Virginia. So it's interesting. One year you might have the dynamic quarterback, but you have no, for whatever reason, even though you do, your running game's not quite as good, or you can't protect him, or you have a team that scores 35 points a game or 30 points a game, and you have a defense, and we've seen this in the Big 12, that can't stop anybody. So I do think, and I could be surprised, especially if both teams make a play or two early, or if someone does turn it over deep in their own territory. And, of course, Baylor's kick return and punt return team is fantastic with Treston Ebner, although Oklahoma State nullified him last week. Unless you get a couple of cheap touchdowns, and I don't mean cheap because you have to earn them, but I do think that we're going to see something similar to Oklahoma, West Virginia, Baylor, and Oklahoma State. And so with that being the case, if it's a game that stays like under 20, then it's a turf war.
Yep.
And I would give West Virginia's defensive front, even though Baylor's defense is good, I would give West Virginia's defensive front probably the edge, and then I would give Baylor's offensive line. And for me to say to give them the edge is hard to say because they were just a wreck last year, but they have gotten better. They've gotten better, but now everybody has more film, more evidence on tape. Now everybody kind of knows what somebody can or cannot do, whether it's Dagey or Bohannon, whether it's the defensive front or the secondary, and even if part of that's your strength, now people have evidence, and now they can kind of try to game plan against that.
It's interesting that you said that. So do you think with both teams having a strength on the defensive line and maybe not so much on the offensive line, especially West Virginia, do you think we're going to see a lot of broken plays and a lot of quarterbacks having to scramble and make plays in this game?
Yeah, I do. Iowa State started to put pressure on Bohannon in the second half, and Oklahoma State got after him as well. Now, one of the things about Gary, even when he did have enough time, one of the strengths and weaknesses for him, he's a young quarterback, as you know, didn't play much at all up until he got the starting nod right before the season began. He's really good, and a lot of young quarterbacks cannot do this. It's like you mentioned with Garrett. Is it they here comes the boom, they gone. The one thing about Gary, at least so far, is he will stay in that pocket for almost too long before he takes off. There was a couple of times against Oklahoma State, even against Iowa State, even though they won that game early on, he took off, and then he took a hit in that game. I mean, he took a hit. And then it kind of maybe it's not the first time he's been hit. He's a pretty big kid, but that it's like the first time you're in the boxing ring and everything's pretty good, and all of a sudden someone hits you and you feel a little bit different. And so I think that might have contributed to him not taking off as much, but he can run. He can also stay in the pocket almost to a point where you're like, throw it away or go. So I think it'll be fun. I think both quarterbacks, whoever can handle the pressure and escape, it doesn't have to be like a long run, but escape a couple of times to keep a drive alive, especially if it can help change field position or keep a drive alive that leads to points. Yeah, I think whoever can do that is going to have an advantage in this game.
That's the exact issue Jarrett Dagey has been having. For whatever reason, he steps side to side to get away from pressure, and a lot of times he's stepping right into the sack. And then on top of that, whenever the route doesn't develop when he wants it to develop, he won't throw the ball away. So our quarterback takes way too many sacks. We have to avoid that. Now, he's not like Austin Kendall and throwing 3 and 4 interceptions like that was in 2019, but now we're taking sacks. So it's like we traded throwing a lot of interceptions to taking a lot of sacks. So I'm really worried about that. I
would rather take sacks than throw interceptions
Yes.
for obvious reason. But
Yes.
when the games are now lower scoring than they've been in a long time, that doesn't mean you don't get 70-35 or Texas and Oklahoma. That could end up being a grinded out game. Who knows with those two, because it's such a big rivalry. But when it's going to be a game now that it's not going to be 50-40 or crazy 70-63 like it was in 2012, if it's not going to be that, and it doesn't appear very often, it's not going to. It's going to be you'd rather take the sack than the interception. Now, not if it's going to knock you out of field goal range, because 3 points in a game like this is almost like maybe even scoring a touchdown.
Yeah, like it did in the Oklahoma game for us. Well, that was more of a bad snap, but still same situation. And that literally cost us the game. And, a game like this, West Virginia at Baylor, I think they're pretty evenly matched. I think they complement each other as far as they're not going to overwhelm each other on either side of the ball. It could come down to one play or one possession, and West Virginia is so far 0-2 when it comes down to that last play. So, if it does, hopefully we have the ball last. That's all I can say about that.
Yeah, and again, if it comes down to the last drive, and Texas Tech had the last drive and made enough plays to get in field goal range, and obviously with Iowa State was driving at the end and had to go for two, and they had obviously they missed it, but still trying to get onside kicks. Baylor and Dave Aranda was 2-7 last year. They're 4-1 this year. In 14 games as the coach, they have 26 takeaways, and they've only turned it over 13 times.
Yep.
Now, last year it didn't matter. Their offense was so bad, turning it over was basically one after another 3 and out. So they are creating turnovers. They're a ball-hawking team. And, they'll recover a fumble or two every once in a while. They have to put more pressure on the quarterback, which I know you mentioned Nagy at times is having that happen to him.
Yep.
But I look forward. I think it's going to be a hell of a chess match. Neil Brown and Dave Aranda both at one point coached under a Mike Leach team.
Yep.
And both of them were, you think anyone coming out of a Mike Leach coaching tree that it would be like some offensive explosion, but it's not the case. And and Neil Brown understands the Big 12 like Mike Gundy at Oklahoma State. They used to always just throw it, run it. They were always going to score 5 points a game. I mean, even Oklahoma State's calmed it down, hired Knowles as their defensive coordinator, and they now understand we got to play better defense. And a lot of people in the Big 12 are doing that, and including the two teams we're talking about right now with West Virginia and also with Baylor.
Yeah, and that's why, TCU was leading the Big 12 in defense for I think it was 4 or 5 years in a row. Then all of a sudden, Oklahoma State, West Virginia, Oklahoma, Baylor, Iowa State, all these teams get good defenses, and it broke TCU's streak. And now TCU is struggling because they don't have the best defense in the league, and everybody's figured out, hey, we need a good defense. And now TCU is trying to figure out how to get a better offense because they've leaned on their defense to win games for a long time now. And now that the rest of the league is, figuring that out and catching up, he's got to do something else.
Yeah, you're right.
I wanted to switch gears real quick. What do you think about the Red River Shootout, Texas and Oklahoma?
Oklahoma is the king, and they have been now for basically a decade, with an occasional team that's interrupted that, including Baylor a couple of different times, or an Oklahoma State once and Kansas State once. Texas has not won the Big 12, as we know, since 2009, when they had that team that played for the national title. I mean, I would always lean to Oklahoma, but what I've seen from them, and maybe last week maybe they found some kind of magical box with what they were doing. The one thing that makes them different this year, and I don't like the way their defense is better, but they don't tackle very well. There's been a problem from them even when they were really, really good across the board. They don't have any explosive plays. I think I saw a stat put up last week. They might be like 0 with any kind of explosive plays of like 40 yards or more.
Wow.
And that's hard to imagine, because what Oklahoma used to do, and they did it for years, and they did it under Bob Stoops, and they did it no matter who the quarterback was. They would beat you by blowing you out early.
Yep.
I mean, that doesn't mean they couldn't get in the shootout and win the game, and they won many games at the end as well. But they would come in and they would try to completely just destroy you early, like boom, boom, boom,
Yeah.
like Baylor did under Art Briles when they would get up. I mean, there are teams that looked up, they're down 21 points in the first
Yep.
quarter.
They
And
would
they're
tap
like,
you
what
out
the
early.
hell? Oklahoma has been able to do that now on and off pretty much more consistently than not. And this isn't that kind of a team. So with Texas having Bijan Robinson, I like the way their quarterback, he doesn't hurt them. He's not going to, he's not going to be a guy that is going to win Offensive Player of the Year. He's not going to be an All-American, but he manages the game pretty well. Their defense creates turnovers. I actually think, and it's hard for me until other people prove it otherwise about Oklahoma, but I think only because of what I've seen from Oklahoma, what I saw against Nebraska, what I saw them against West Virginia, and again, two very good defensive teams, but I just don't see that explosive nature that they've been able to have. And, last year Oklahoma beat Texas. It took 4 overtimes, and that was a much better Oklahoma team. And Tom Herman, in fact, eventually got fired.
Yep.
Oklahoma, we know they're always in the conversation for the college football playoff, but I have a feeling that maybe Texas with that running game and Oklahoma not being as explosive might be more of a difference maker for the Horns than it will be for Oklahoma this year.
Yeah, I agree with you totally, and it goes back to what you were saying earlier. Oklahoma, they would just pile it on you early in the game, and you'd be tapping out, midway through the second quarter. Now it's they actually have to play 4 quarters and score in all 4 quarters because they can't put up 28 points in the first quarter. And I think that's why I think Texas can pull this. I haven't seen the line. I would say Oklahoma is favored. So if that's the case, I think Texas does pull this off. This upset because Oklahoma's not explosive, and it looks like Texas is starting to develop that explosive offense, especially with the running back Bijan Robinson. And Texas has a really big offensive line as well.
Yeah, they always have a bunch of guys. Again, sometimes the question is they may get a lot of stars, but they have not been able to cultivate the talent, so to speak. And
Right. Yep.
sometimes you wonder, they might get guys that look pretty good coming off the bus, but can they play football? I think Sarkisian has done a pretty good job of at least twisting that a little bit, and it's going to take more than a year. It might take a year or two to do that, but there's no question they've got playmakers all over the place. They always have.
Yeah.
The problem was, could the meat and potatoes make plays? And I saw them against TCU. The difference in that game was they created turnovers. Every time the ball was on the ground, Texas recovered. A muff punt, Texas recovered. A fumble, Texas recovered. They forced a huge turnover on a strip sack, a blindside sack of Duggan that they recovered and almost ran it back for a touchdown. They have that kind of explosion. It'll be interesting to see if they can get the Rattler like that and make him throw a couple of bad ones. He hasn't, again, we said it, they have not been explosive. They've been more methodical.
Yep.
I kind of look forward to seeing how this thing plays out.
But it does make me wonder because we kind of saw this same situation last year with Oklahoma where they got off to a slow start. And last year they actually picked up 2 losses with their slow start. This year, still a slow start, but they're still undefeated. So, maybe that explosion comes back in this Texas game. I'm leaning towards Texas because Oklahoma is barely winning games. They are winning games, but barely. And Texas is looking more impressive. But this could be maybe the so-called turnaround game for Oklahoma where they get things going. And then, towards the end of the season, they are piling it on other people.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, Lincoln Riley's damn good at what he does. Rattler is still a very talented player. They have the running game is good with Gray, and obviously Kennedy Brooks is a fantastic running back, but he's not going to beat you with a 50-yard run.
Yep.
He's more of a plotter. The offensive line, they had the last couple of years, a lot of those guys are playing in the NFL or were at least drafted or signed by NFL teams. So they had Humphrey, the center, among others. So, they're having to replace a few key people. Their defense, though, at times, they could not stop Kansas State on 3rd and 4th down.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, that's another problem that they have on defense. Even though the defense is pretty good, they're not stopping people and getting the ball back to give the offense good field position. So and they're not creating too many turnovers, although they had the incredible interception against Nebraska, ended up winning that game that they finally played after so many years of not playing as well.
That game was way closer than what I was expecting. It turned out to be a good game, actually. So I wanted to go back to something one of my subscribers, commenters, asked, and he asked, what team has had the biggest turnaround from last year to this year? I know this is one of those got to do your research type questions, but off the top of your head, from what we've seen so far, in your opinion, who would you say has the biggest turnaround for this year up to this point?
Man, I don't know if I have, I don't have the standings in front of me. Obviously, Michigan had a bad year. And again, we don't know if they're for real. Michigan State had a bad year. They're both 10-0. They're 5-0 each. So those are a couple of bigger schools. But I do think that those two teams at least have to be mentioned. Not really anybody in the Big 12 because Oklahoma State, Texas, Baylor. Baylor was 2-7. I don't think
I was going to say Baylor. I would throw Baylor in there so far.
What's that?
I said I would throw Baylor in there so far. They're having a good season so far.
Yeah, I still want to see if they can piece together, a couple more wins before I start looking at them as the most improved. Because obviously after the Iowa State game, that was a surprising win. There's no question about it. Wake Forest last year was 4-5. They're off to a nice start in the ACC at 5-0. In fact, they're ranked in the top 20. So that's a team to look at as well. I mentioned Michigan and Michigan State. If you take Michigan and Michigan State, and then you even add in Penn State, Michigan was 2-4. Penn State was what were they? Penn State was 4-5.
Yeah.
And then also Michigan State was 2-5. And all those teams are unbeaten.
That's crazy.
15-0.
Yeah.
So even though those are big names, I still think if you want to, if the word is turnaround, and turnaround means changing what you were a year ago, I don't think there's any question you got to add them to the mix too.
Yeah, and the person that wrote that question, he threw Kentucky in there. I would agree with that, but I think Penn State would be the biggest turnaround. And I spoke with a lot of Penn State fans when last year's fiasco was going on, and their sentiment was, fire James Franklin. I'm like, are you nuts? He has averaged double-digit win seasons since he's been at Penn State, and then you go beyond that. He was going 9-4, 9-4 at Vanderbilt. Who does that? Who goes 9-4 at Vanderbilt? Nobody. And then I said, look, guys, y'all need to get off your depression wagon. This year, you're going to have a big turnaround. You're going to have a 10-win season, and you're going to regret saying that. Oh, I'll see it when I believe it. What are we seeing? Penn State has a big turnaround. So as far now, Michigan State, that's a different story. I am surprised about them. But Penn State, I'm not shocked because James Franklin, he's a good coach, and he recruits at a high level. I think Penn State has the best shot out of Michigan State, Penn State, even Ohio State, to win the Big Ten East.
Well, that Big Ten East is obviously loaded. Penn State has Iowa this week.
Yep.
But when you take three teams that are combined 15-0, and last year they were 4-5, 2-4, and 2-5. Of course, last year was a cluster, a dumpster fire because of COVID. They didn't want to play. They were going to start the year late, and then all of a sudden Ohio State
that was nuts.
Looks up and they go, well, what the hell, man? Everyone else is playing except us in the Pac-12, and they realized they were going to be left out of all this. So all of a sudden they changed that narrative pretty quickly.
Yep.
And Nebraska the whole time, they're sitting there going, guys, what are we doing? Let's play football. And, of course, some of them were, looking down on them because they haven't been very good. But they wanted to just play football. That's what they're there for. But I think the three of those teams, that Big East, Big Ten East, that's pretty salty if you look across the board of who they have with the teams we just mentioned, Michigan, Michigan State, Penn State, and then you look at Ohio State, that's 19-1. And
Yep.
Ohio State was drilled by Oregon. They're going to try to get their defense back together. And even Maryland, although Iowa destroyed them last week,
Yeah.
Maryland's 4-1. And you mentioned that earlier. So I think that you could go to that division with three of those teams and say, yeah, those are the ones that have had the best turnaround. And Wake Forest, I mentioned them. And if Baylor can win if Baylor can beat West Virginia, then we start looking at legitimacy as far as a true turnaround.
Yeah.
Because if they don't, they're 4-2. They have a top 10 Brigham Young. Texas might be top 10 or 15 by next week if they beat Oklahoma. And the next thing you know, you look up and you're 4-4. So I want to see them win and get to 5-1 before I think you put them in that conversation.
Now, you mentioned Nebraska earlier. I got a question for you. What does Nebraska have to do as far as success goes for Scott Frost to be safe? And on top of that, even though they lost to a Illinois team that they shouldn't have, it looks like Nebraska could possibly be turning a corner as of recent. How do you see Nebraska?
Well, disappointing. I'm a lifelong Nebraska fan. I was born in Omaha, Nebraska a long time ago. But I think when they lost that game, Illinois game was just, they've had a lot of problems with clock management, late game decisions by Scott Frost. He's 5-15 in games decided in the last, few minutes of a game. Illinois was like that. The game with Michigan, was it not Michigan State? The game with Michigan State, they were up 7. They mishandled. They screwed up a punt. Didn't cover the punt return. Next thing you know, they lose in overtime. That's kind of what they've done. If they're a play away, I thought that against Oklahoma, only because again that you think Oklahoma has these explosive plays. I thought that could have been a 50-10 game because Nebraska was just kind of there too many penalties. Martinez turns it over. He's a fantastic player, but he turns it over too much. And when they may have, in a loss, maybe a loss to Michigan State the way it happened, they were finally like, damn, we're tired of this. So they had 2 straight losses where, they're 2-3. Let's not try to act like they're better than that, but they are 2-3, and they could be 4. It could be one of those where they're 4-1. Oklahoma's better, no question, but actually they're 3-3. But Illinois should have won. Michigan State, again, we say they should have won, but they lost the game, and as part of winning the game, they didn't win.
That's true.
They've kind of forgotten how to win. But they beat the hell out of Northwestern. Now, Northwestern this year is not very good. I don't know what's going on there because that guy, normally Fitzgerald, is such a good coach. But, yeah, they appear to be turning the corner, but now they have Michigan.
Yep.
If they can play head up, and let's not act like Michigan's a power, but, they've kind of had a couple of nice wins that make you go, okay. But if Nebraska can play head up and who knows, maybe even get a break or two, maybe they're going to finally learn how to win. They got their whole thing. They got to get back to a bowl, and it's amazing. They had that stretch of like 40 years in a row. They had 9 wins or more, 38 years, whatever it was. An unbelievable run from the mid '60s until they started struggling after Osborne left and Solich was there. They fired him after winning 9 games. Pelini won 9 games every year, but he'd get destroyed a couple of times a year. If Scott Frost can't do it, unless some miracle worker shows up there, I don't know who can. I think they have to stay patient. It's hard. He has not always been the best game management with the game on the line decision maker. That's also the fact that he's been coaching for only so long. It's only been, he had that great team at UCF, but that team was loaded up when he got there. I think you just gotta be patient. Now Martinez can come back. He's been there forever. But he can still actually come back for another year. Whether he does or not, I think it depends on how they finish the year. But it's going to be tough. The Big Ten's not a really good fit for them. They've gotten away from where they can recruit well, which was down in Texas a little bit. They do a great job in Florida, and they've done a pretty good job as well in California. But listen, they just don't have the same people. They have terrible special teams. They're not a very smart team. They have too many penalties, and the coach right now is a little bit overwhelmed. That's a bad combination across the board. But I'll be interested. I'll figure it out. I think I'll be able to know a little bit more about them and how they play and how competitive they are against Michigan at the end of this weekend. But then they still have to play Ohio State. They still have to play Iowa. Their schedule won't get much easier. But a couple of teams that have created problems for them in recent years, including Northwestern, they're down a little bit. Minnesota, Purdue, they're down a little bit. Wisconsin's not quite as who they have been. So maybe they can find a way to win 3 more, maybe 4 more games. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you when it comes to that, and I have gotten slaughtered for it. People are calling me crazy because I'm like, you need to be just a little bit more patient with Scott Frost because, he's not out there, getting blown out. He's just losing games, in that moment where the game is won or lost. If he can figure that out, Nebraska can turn it around and start having 10-win seasons again. It's just those critical errors that his team makes. He's got to learn to coach that out of them. And, win the big games too. Get to a bowl, build on it, start winning big games, because they're really not as far away as people think they are. They're closer than people realize. You just got to have patience. And like you said, if Scott Frost can't do it, and they get rid of Scott Frost, who in the world are they going to bring that can do it?
Yeah,
that would be my question.
Yeah, that's something that a lot of people thought. If he couldn't turn them around, then who's going to do it unless you have like some miracle, like star that comes walking in there? And I don't think that's a place for too many of them are going to do. But you're not going to go see it. That's one of the things they used to have such longevity, such consistency with Devaney and Osborne and then Solich. And since that time, since the early parts of the 2000s, it's been erratic. And when you're erratic, when you have administration and ADs changing, presidents changing, then you're going to have some problems across the board with who's on who, what page are they on. But, I kind of got numb to them. And, they used to be like, they were Alabama.
Yep.
They were Clemson. They were Ohio. You knew every year they were going to go 9-3 minimum.
Yep.
10-2. Maybe they had that great run, and not just in the 90s. They were good like that forever.
Yeah.
And
they were a machine.
We'll figure that out.
Yeah, they were a machine. There was a reason why they had that name. I agree with you on that. So, I know your time is precious to you, so I'm going to let you get off here. But before that, do you have keys to the game? And who are you? I know you're a Baylor fan, so you're probably going to lean towards Baylor. So how do you see this game folding out, West Virginia at Baylor?
Well, I'm not a Baylor fan. I cover Baylor. I work for a place with Sikkim 365 on the name of the radio show and the website, but I didn't go to Baylor. Nobody in my family went to Baylor. I actually graduated from Stephen F. Austin, which is a great basketball program.
Yep.
I picked against Baylor against Iowa State. I picked against Baylor at Oklahoma State. I was 1-1.
Nice.
I think that because they're at home, I think that they kind of got a little bit of their noses rubbed in it last week. I think they probably got maybe a little bit, being home rather than being like on the road again. Sometimes being on the road after a bad kind of a lackluster performance, that it kind of helps you to get away from all the talk. But I do think, West Virginia getting to Bohannon early, Baylor getting a couple of cheap throws from Daggy, and I'm going to say that this comes down to if Treston Ebner can flip the switch when it comes to a kick or a punt return that gives Baylor a short field. Those are some of the keys to the game. But it all comes down to this. Baylor has not stopped the run very well, and they've had to face Breece Hall and Warren, who's a hell of a running back who kind of came out of nowhere for Oklahoma State. They're about to face Brown, who we know can run. He's good, but West Virginia hasn't run the ball well. So if West Virginia runs the ball well, they'll win the game. If Baylor stops the run, they'll win the game. And we can get into field position and turnovers. That's easy because that's a different thing. You can't really count on that.
Right.
But if Baylor stops the run enough, they'll win the game. They'll get a couple of turnovers on the interceptions. They force a lot of those, and that'll be enough. If they don't stop the run, then Daggy can get more comfortable, maybe not have to rush or panic, and that should allow West Virginia to have some success. So I'll take Baylor 20-17. But like I said, I didn't think they'd win at home against Iowa State. They did, although they had to hang on. And I didn't think they'd win last week, and I was pretty close to that score. So I'll take Baylor in this game, but 20-17.
Yeah, and I apologize. My brain was flipped all around with that Baylor fan. I meant Baylor broadcaster. That's what I meant, Baylor broadcaster.
Yeah, I get that all the time. That's okay. It doesn't bother.
So,
I just want to make sure.
But you're a big Nebraska fan.
When you cover a team, you want them to win.
Right.
I mean, it's better for business if they win, but but that's okay.
That was the direction my brain went to.
Okay.
I think this could be similar to the Virginia Tech West Virginia game. I think there's similar matchups, there's similar issues, and West Virginia did get the running game going against Virginia Tech, and I think that is the actual key to this game. if West Virginia can get the running game going against Baylor, I think West Virginia wins. But if they can't, I think they lose. I think I know that's basic, down to the molecule, but I think that's what it comes down to. If West Virginia can get the running game going or not. So that's where I'm going to leave it at.
Yep, I agree.
All right. Well, I appreciate you coming on. Tell them about 365 Sports again.
Well, we're on like 5 or 6 different, as far as Sikkim 365 radios online. We have an app, it's called Sikkim 365. We're on all this stuff. Twitter, my Twitter handle's @DavidSmoak, DavidSmoak. But the thing that has obviously exploded for us, we have a studio, a beautiful state-of-the-art studio. YouTube channel is 365 Sports, and that thing has gone coast to coast ever since the Oklahoma and Texas story, and we'd love for people to drop in whenever they can.
Absolutely, and I try to drop in as much as I can because you are absolutely right, man. That studio is amazing, and it's just awesome to see, and it really has blown up, man. Y'all have grown tremendously. Congratulations on that.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you.
No problem, man. Thanks for giving me some of your time. I appreciate it.
All right, have a great week. See you. Good luck Saturday.
All right, you too, man. See ya. Man, that guy is amazing. You know what? Whenever you do these interviews, you're like, don't brain fart. What happens? I was doing great. I was doing amazing. I was doing awesome. And then I said, you're a Baylor fan like an idiot. And I knew that he wasn't a Baylor fan. I knew he was a Nebraska guy. But, you get your signals crossed sometimes. And, I knew he was a broadcaster for Baylor. And then it's just how it came out, and one mistake. I guess I got to live with that. But the rest of the time, I think I did all right. But great guest. I definitely appreciate him coming on. Joey, I don't know how you did it, but you got him on here, and it was amazing, just like you said it would be. And remember, go check out 365 Sports. I might be incorrect, but I'm pretty sure they have live shows every stinking day, every day, and their comment section is loaded. We're talking 200 to 400, sometimes 1,000 people in there. So y'all definitely need to go check out 365 Sports. Great stuff, and it really truly has exploded. I think this was a good show. I hope y'all enjoyed this show. I had a good time. Special thanks to Kuz's Corner. Don't forget to check out his YouTube channel as well. It's growing. And my new sponsor, Thrive Fantasy. If you use the promo code DUDE, as in Golden Blue Dude, your first deposit, they'll match 100% up to $100. So if you enter the promo code DUDE, deposit $100, they throw in an extra $100. There you go. Yeah, that one mistake, I know. It won't happen again. But I think I still, I think I still did okay. Especially for the hectic day that I had today. It was rainy, running all over the place. Flat tire on the way home. But you know what? That's life. You got to roll with the punches. You got to roll. And I had to eat dinner at the beginning of the live show. That doesn't hardly ever... Well, that's never happened because I usually don't start at 7. Crazy day. Anyways, thank y'all for stopping by. I had a great time. I hope y'all had a great time. I like that idea that Joey put out there, $5 Super Chat, creating a poll. Did we ever get that poll for... because I can't see. I don't know if it was done or not. The one about the greatest turnaround from last year to this year. I'm interested to see what the voting on that was like. I know he said to make sure to put Kentucky in there. So I'm sure Kentucky was in there. Who did y'all vote for? Who was the biggest turnaround team voted on? I got to... It was Kentucky. Okay. I can't disagree. I would put it right up there, Penn State. That would probably be my number one pick. But, I kind of predicted that Penn State would do that. But anyways, thank you, Joey, for doing the polls for me. The audience seems to enjoy that. That's a great idea. Kentucky was indeed the winner. So yeah, we'll do more polls, and if you want a poll created for a question, whether you want to provide the answers or not, we can provide the answers. All you got to do, $5 super chat or more, and we'll do that, and we have a good time. Appreciate y'all that donated with the super chat. Every little bit helps. Trying to grow, trying to get bigger, and it does take money to upgrade and stuff. So, you know, every little bit helps. Trying to think anything else. No, I think we're good. Y'all have a good night. Hey, seriously, if it wasn't for you guys, there would be no Gold and Blue Dude. I'm just the face and the voice. Y'all are Gold and Blue Dude. You are the heart and soul of this channel. And if you haven't subbed already and you just came across this, hit that subscribe button. I do college football videos every single day. 14 months in a row, haven't missed a day. We'll see y'all on Saturday, and don't forget tomorrow, another video will be coming out.